and Facebook pages at the One Mic Show, and we're soon going to be going live on TikTok. So pay attention to that. We'll soon be going live on TikTok, and then we want you to follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show, and we're also going to be taking live calls at 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak, so save that number. And then also remember to go and tag us at highlight, at everyone, at followers. Whatever you have, please tag all your friends so that they can join us live. Now, later tonight, we'll talk about the Hustla narrative that swept certain parts of Kenya leading up to the last election and how some people survived it. We'll also have an honest take on the narrative, on if the narrative helped or hurt Kenya. So please start dropping your comments and let us know what you think. Na bila kusahau, tutapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ Omoshfire, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios, mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now this hour we'll talk to Minority Leader Kiambu Assembly, Honorable Joe Kigara, who's also the member of County Assembly in Ngenda Ward. He'll make a case on importance of benchmarking trips for Kenyan politicians. He'll also talk about his frustrations with devolution and how he survived the Hustla wave in a UDA stronghold. I want you to drop a comment below and tell us where you are tuned in from. I can see a couple of people there already tuned in. I want to remind you that I'm the co-host and producer Ali Badawi. It's Friday the 1st of March, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow the One Mic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok is coming soon. So stay tuned for that. And remember to tag us at highlight, at everyone, at all the kind of arts that you have. Tag all your friends. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. One Mike Kamakawa. Sports anchor Mika Och will be joining us via Zoom. And our resident DJ Omoshfire is already live on the decks. And also not forgetting our super producer is none other than Mubelwa Bandio. And before we get started, I can see some people already tuned in. Washek and Dirango Karibu Sana, Sleod War. Welcome to the One Mic Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can see Mimo Koenange. We thank you for the tag at highlight. Mimo says, hi Watwangu, watching from a secret location. Please give us a hint, Mimo. Tell us where you're watching from. And all those who are tuned in, please type up there. Tell us where you're watching from. If you're watching from Kenya, if you're watching from Rwanda, if you're watching from Washington, D.C., please let us know, because we have so much to cover today. And then, of course, our condolences go to our brothers and sisters in Tanzania on the death of former President Ali Hassan Mwinyi, who will be buried tomorrow. He passed away yesterday, and condolences. So I want all the people who are tuned in to tell us if they know anything about Ali Hassan Mwinyi, or if they knew anything about him, or just any detail they had, or tell us anything that you've heard maybe the Kenyan media mentioning, because this is something that I think is very important for us as East Africans. If we're going to move forward together, it's important to understand when things are happening in each other's countries. I remember when the Queen died. My goodness, you would have thought it was a Kenyan who died, like condolences all over the place. So I'm not sure, but I want to hear from our listeners and just tell us what they know about Ali Hassan Mwinyi, or maybe what they've heard in the media, and then we're going to keep moving from there. Maybe later on we're going to hear from our super producer Mubelwa Bandio on maybe just his life and some of the things that he did that may have some resonance with people in Kenya. But with that said, we are going to get started because we have so much to cover today, and we also have a guest in studio. Now, foreign trips by Kenyan politicians abroad have over the years become the most visible symbol of government excesses and wastage of taxpayers' money. Now, from hefty daily per diems to staying in luxury 5-star hotels and eating in the most expensive Michelin-rated restaurants that even most Americans can't afford. Now, despite the blatant displays of opulence, politicians claim that these infamous benchmarking trips are necessary and important for the growth of our economy and have had tangible outcomes. Now, to help us dissect this conversation in studio tonight is Minority Leader of the Kiambu County Assembly, Honorable Joe Kigara. He's also MCA from Ngenda Ward, elected on a Jubilee ticket. Now, Honorable Kigara has been in Washington, D.C. from earlier this week representing Kiambu County at the Kenya-U.S. Legislative Convention for Minority Leaders. He was scheduled to meet officials from the National Association of Counties and the National Organization of Black County Officials. He was also scheduled to meet senators, congressmen, and other U.S. government officials, and he will be telling us more about this shortly. Now, prior to joining politics, Honorable Kigara was an IT consultant for over 15 years and studied and worked in the UK for over 10 years. Also, interestingly, Honorable Kigara happens to be one of the few Jubilee members that survived the UDA Hustla narrative wave that swept across the foothills of Mount Kenya like a thunderclap. Honorable Kigara, karibu sana ndani ya One Mic Show. How are you doing today?
I am very good. Asante sana for inviting me.
Okay.
Glad to be here.
Okay. And how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good.
Okay.
Yes.
How long have you been in the U.S.?
So I got into DC Monday evening.
Okay.
So my schedule started on Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. So
okay.
Here just
so you've been here. How much longer are you staying here?
My journey ends tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So tomorrow you're back to Kenya.
Yes. I'm back to Kenya on Sunday actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Good. So now before we get into the nooks and crevices and weeds of what people want to know,
yes.
We want to understand a little bit more about your role as a member of county assembly, because there's been a lot of media stories on MCAs fighting each other and trying to impeach governors for not giving them money, and this is what most people tend to understand about MCAs. This is the picture that they have for members of county assembly. So maybe you can start by telling us, because there seems to be a disconnect in understanding what the role of an MCA is. So please try to fill in the gap for us and tell us what an MCA is and what their role is, because most people, there's a disconnect.
True.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you once again for inviting me into the show. And by the way, again, my condolences to the people of Republic of Tanzania for losing President Ali Hassan Mwinyi. So the role of an MCA, first of all, when devolution came, what it did is just to separate, sort of a separation of powers between national duties and the devolved functions. Now, what happened was the Constitution envisioned that you have to devolve even legislation, oversight, and representation.
Okay.
And that was the whole purpose of devolution. So an MCA does it's like a replica of what members of national parliament do, but specific to devolved functions at county level. That is, so we represent essentially wards. A ward is basically the first unit of representation in the Constitution of Kenya as far as elective politics is concerned. Then you go to sub-counties and so on and so forth. So we have in Kiambu, for instance, 60 elected officials or wards, and out of those 60 elected officials or wards form 12 sub-counties. So in our context of Kiambu Assembly, we have 60 elected members of county assembly and 36 nominated members of county assembly.
Just repeat that again.
So yes.
How many members of county, how many elected, and how many nominated?
Yes, so in total we have 86 members. This is in Kiambu. So you have to understand that Kiambu is the second biggest assembly in Kenya, second from Nairobi.
From Nairobi, okay.
We have 86 members.
Okay.
I think Nairobi has 100 and something.
So 60 elected and 26 nominated.
36 nominated.
So that's 96.
Yes. No, sorry. No, 80. We're 86 members.
Okay, so 60, you said 60 nominated?
I think you said 50 nominated.
Or 50 nominated. No, 50 elected.
60 elected.
60 elected.
Correct, sorry. It's 60 elected, 26 nominated.
60 elected, 26 nominated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So 86 members of county assembly.
Absolutely.
Okay. Uno Mike, karibu sana. You had a question that you wanted
No.
to
I was trying to figure out The math.
The math.
Yeah, math was not
Because the math was not
Yes,
mathing.
yes.
Okay.
The math was not mathing.
Okay.
Okay. Just to put it in perspective, what happens is there's a formula that's used during election, because remember, every assembly or every parliament has to have 1/3 gender rule.
Okay.
Okay. Now, it's only after elections that you realize how many of each gender have been elected into the assembly or in parliament.
Yeah.
Then you deploy a formula to fill up the gap so that you have at least 1/3 of each gender.
Okay. So let's take, for example, like hypothetically,
Yes.
60 male members of county assembly
Yes.
are elected in Kiambu.
Yes.
So to be able to meet the 1/3 gender rule, you have to, because even when you do 20, that will still, because now the total will be 80.
Absolutely.
So now you will have to add until when the total number of women in there will be 26.
Exactly.
So now reverse that. If let's say 40 male and 20 female are elected.
Yes.
So 1/3 gender rule is also met. Does that mean no one gets nominated?
1/3 gender rule has always to be applied. So if you had 60 male members
Yeah.
elected,
Yeah.
you'd have to have 30 female ones nominated to balance it off.
To balance it off.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So, and
so
you
in
can
our,
only-
that's a worst case scenario.
that's worst case scenario. So
Okay.
you can only know that after results come in
Okay.
an election.
Okay.
Then you deploy how many more you need to fill up
Okay.
in that sense.
All right. I think
Yes.
that 1/3 gender rule is a topic for another day. But let me welcome DJ Omosh Fire. I don't know whether these are the same numbers in Homa Bay County. DJ Omosh Fire, karibu sana to the One Mic Show.
You know, in the Bay, as guys, we don't pick and choose things like that.
Okay.
Sisi tuko mbele kama mfuko ya shati.
What does that mean? That
In other words, don't listen to me, boss.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so this gender rule is very interesting. So my question would be that in terms of expenditure,
Yes.
meaning I'm assuming that budget is for X amount of positions.
Right.
So if you have to add on a whole, say, 25 or 30 people who you are going to have to pay,
Yes.
where is this money coming from?
Okay. So reverse it the other way. You have to look at geographically what IEBC considers as the potential wards that are up for election.
Okay.
Okay. Once that has been done, depending on population and everything, then you have to now work out how many you need to top up. So IBC goes and says Kiambu, for instance, has 12 sub-counties. And by population, you have to divide each sub-county into at least 4 wards. So some sub-counties like Ruiru have
when you
6.
say sub-county,
Yeah.
because these Kenyan terminologies are confusing. Sub-county is an electoral constituency.
It's what we used to call
represented
constituencies,
by a member of parliament.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
So if you take my constituency,
yeah.
sub-county,
Yeah.
Gatundu South
Yeah.
has 4 wards. Okay.
Okay.
And in other sub-counties like Ruiru, you have about 6 because they're very densely populated and they're geographically massive.
Yeah.
Okay. So IEBC did this exercise. It's mandated by the constitution to do this exercise of demarcating how representation is going to occur.
Okay.
Once that's done, then elected positions now dictate everything else beyond that.
Okay.
And to answer your question, then it's when now you understand how much of a budget you need to spend per county, because all counties are different.
Yeah, and I guess this answers Washeke's question here. Washeke is asking why do we need 26 nominated? Is in that a bloated government, and I think this is one of the difficulties that we have to deal with the 1/3 gender rule. Does this also apply in the National Assembly?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So in the National Assembly, like they will adjust the number of nominated members of parliament based on what proportion they have between men and women.
Remember, in National Assembly, we have already 47
women reps.
Women reps.
Automatically.
Automatically.
Yes.
So then that already takes care of
a portion of it.
A portion of representation, which is specifically reserved for women.
Yes.
Then you work backwards from there. So every political party now comes into play and they're asked to nominate maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 nominated women to fill in those gaps. So there's a whole formula on how it works.
Okay. Now, so that, I mean, so as not to get away from what the role of an MCA was,
Yes.
because I think this one, third gender rule, is another very controversial topic that I think
Yes.
people have different passions for.
True.
Just because of the way the math works. But really, from a layman perspective, you mentioned legislation.
Yes.
If you go talk to, like the guy on the street, like the boda guy, or just a regular guy on the street, even a guy who's attending college, and you tell them my function as an MCA is legislation, that means absolutely nothing.
True.
Yeah, it means absolutely nothing. So imagine you're talking to someone on the street. What is an MCA?
Okay.
So
So that's
kazi yake ni nini
that's
beyond
true.
impeaching governors?
actually
Na kupigana watu sasa election.
yes.
we yeah, true, and we don't throw chairs at each other these days. Not really.
Stones. I see stones.
Well,
but-
yeah, but times are changing.
Yeah.
Now, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Because if you go to the ordinary quote unquote person
Yeah.
on the ground, he will tell you the work of an MCA is to bring development to my area.
Yes.
Ajenge barabara,
Mhm.
hospitali, soko, shule, and what have you.
Yeah.
Okay? 99.9% of the electorate expect that. The Constitution says something totally different.
Okay.
Constitution says you go to the assembly, make laws.
Okay.
Go to what we call committees,
Mm-hmm.
do oversight of the executive, of what
Okay.
the governor does.
Yeah.
Represent, which means take petitions, whatever your people want, in parliament.
Mm-hmm.
Representation. Nowhere does it say anything about development,
Okay.
which presents a new problem. Because when you go to the people and you're campaigning, you tell them, look, we can see this area is, lacking of development. We need roads, we need lights, we need markets, we need medicine in our hospitals. And you feel that
Yeah.
because that's exactly what you want to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
But that role is wholly bestowed on the functions of the executive, i.e. the governor, or in the case of national politics, the president.
Okay.
Now, it comes, now the interesting part is now balancing
Yeah.
you lobbying for development and you playing your role as far as the Constitution is concerned.
Yeah.
And that's where now it becomes a bit tricky. Because to your question, the role of an MCA is what the Constitution says.
Okay.
But ideally, the electorate expect you. It's an expectation.
Yeah.
You bring development to the ground.
So
That's
how,
interesting.
So how can this disconnect be sorted out? Because the Constitution is saying one thing.
Yes,
The people on the ground understand something different.
exactly.
How do you translate legislation, oversight, representation? Because these words
Yes,
on the ground, they're kizungu mingi.
kabisa.
Yeah, they
They're
mean
kizungu
nothing.
mingi. They mean nothing.
Yes.
So how do you translate that
Yes,
to resonate
yes.
with the development that people want, so that they kind of have an understanding?
Okay.
There's a middle ground
Yes.
where the two of you, that's the MCA,
Yes.
and the person on the ground can meet.
Okay. Now, it gets even more complicated because of the 6 elected officials, which is from the MCA to the president.
Mhm.
You have member of parliament, women reps, senators, governors, and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Now, only the ones that are expected to bring development is the governor, the president, the member of parliament.
Yes.
Those are the 3 people
Mhm.
who are asked for roads and all these things. Of those 3, only the MCA who does not have a kitty for development.
Okay.
A member of parliament has, he has CDF.
Mm-hmm.
The governor has.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the governor is, that's his work.
Yes.
The president, of course, has that.
Okay.
Now, to go back to your question, the MCA is supposed to bring development, but does not have any money, any kitty, anything
Mhm.
to do this.
To do this.
Now, you have to improvise.
Okay.
Now, this is where now politics comes into play, because now you have to play ball with the governor,
Mm-hmm.
the executive of the day,
Mm-hmm. And be nice to him.
and be nice to him,
Yeah. Or
and
her.
present or her,
Yeah.
and present your cases for your ward and your constituents, so that you get development as expected. All this time doing what the Constitution mandates you to do. Because when I came into power, to assembly, when I got elected, I realized very quickly that assembly is a machine, right? It's been there, it has staff. As soon as you get into office, you are given your committees that you work on, you're given a calendar. It's like school, by the way. They even have a bell. We even have a bell of when you actually go into assembly.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a machine. So you start working from day one. You go into committees, you go into plenary, you're given your duties that you need to do. Everything starts running. How you manage to now bring development to your people has to be now up to you and your craftiness. And you know, when I say craftiness, I mean in a good way. How to entice the governor to, you know, look, my ward needs this bridge here, right? And these other guys can wait, but you come and do this. And this is where it becomes really tricky, because when we try and lobby for a ward development fund, it's not forthcoming.
And we're going to talk about that ward development fund, but DJ Moshfire seemed to have a burning question here.
Ata nimeshindwa bana. This is you know, I was about to ask you in all of this, because I see now you have to play, I was going to say dirty politics, but you have to play a lobbyist role. And it's ni kama wewe ni, you're a representative bila portfolio. Una do. You don't have money.
No.
And the expectation or the thought from the people on the ground is that you're going to deliver, because during campaign, supposedly somebody, maybe you did say, okay, yeah, you guys need this, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, you get elected.
Yes.
So now, do you then also go to the member of parliament because they have CDF funds and say, hey, boss, sasa, ni hivi. Hapa kwetu, you're the one who's covering my award. We need ABCDFG. Nimeongea na ule mse kule juu, lakini ule nika atakuja next year but one.
Exactly.
Sasa unaonaje unipe kipande kidogo? Does that how and what do you hold, or what would you have as an exchange in this conversation? A, with the MP, and B, with the governor.
Okay.
And I think what Washeke was asking that question, your question, I think, is along the lines of how, as an MCA, can you legislate to ensure development is happening for your ward? That goes in line with, I think, with what Omosho was asking. How do you navigate that dicey, slippery road?
So again, if you go back to the Constitution envisioned that as a legislator, whatever laws you make or amend or repeal and do whatever karabati, you're supposed to basically, they're supposed to enable development to eventually come to your ward. And that's the design. You go and say, look, every ward shall have X number of bridges or roads and everything else. And then it's supposed to work that way, because you take these laws to the governor. You take the budget, for example. The budget comes to the assembly. We scrutinize it, we change, we put this and that. We do something called a CIDP. It's a 5-year program. You break it down to a year, an annual program called an annual development plan.
What is a CDIP? That one.
CID. DCI.
CIDP. It's an annual plan. It's I'll get the actual words for you.
Okay.
Right?
Okay,
but it's a 5-year program which basically maps out what you're supposed to do in the 5 year. We pass it in the first year once we're elected. Then we do an ADP. It's an annual development plan. That's an annual plan derived from the first plan. Okay. Once we have that, we take it to the governor for assent. Right. We say we want to build X number of hospitals, X number of roads, and all these. So essentially, the Constitution says you've done your work as far as development is concerned. Now it's up to the governor or the executive to implement. Once he implements, you oversight what is done. That's how it's supposed to be. But remember, once it goes to the governor, it can be implemented partially or not even at all in your ward. This is where now you have to be, clever in how you cajole him or persuade him to prioritize your ward. Now, to what Omosh is saying, there are some members of parliament who are very, very cooperative with their MCAs in terms of development. They'll be like, look, I'm coming to launch a road in your area. Twende pamoja. Because, politics is perception. Ukionekana hapo na MP, you're doing a road, it's this side, you're this side, you've done your job. Now, if you take now how campaigns are done, the campaigns are done per party. And I know we'll come to that. You go with your party people, you say, this is my MCA, this is my MP, this is my governor, the suit. Right? And when you elect us, we will do this for you, A, B, C, D. And you present the manifesto, which presumably was done even for the president. He's using the same manifesto, right?
Yeah.
So at the point when you get in, it should be obvious that this is the manifesto we are working on, from your MCA to the member of parliament to the governor and everybody else.
Trickle up and down effect.
Now, when you come to someone like me, I wasn't there. In fact, now, the people who got in...
Where were you?
I wasn't in, for instance, now the people who got in.
Now,
right?
This is, and this is where, you know, like it gets confusing.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's a learning curve that you had to go through.
Yes.
When you got in.
Yeah.
And of course, the regular Mwananchi doesn't understand, you know, like a lot of these different intricacies of what has to happen and what is not happening. What they understand is that there was a promise of a health facility here. We don't have one. There was a promise of a road here. We don't have one.
Yes.
I, for one, you know, will tell you philosophically, I have an issue with CDF, and now MCAs want their own fund. WDF, there's a philosophical issue that I have with that, and I understand where it came from the beginning, when everybody had to bow down to Moi to get you know, like a development in their little in their constituencies or in their villages or whatever. So that was the premise of that. And devolution, maybe the county governments was supposed to cure that, but it seems that this problem has morphed into a different form, which brings me to the next question that we had here. And this is, of course, before we go to the intricacies of benchmarking, because everybody wants us to talk about benchmarking.
Yes.
We are now, you know, like more than 13 years since promulgation of the new Kenyan constitution,
Yes.
that basically decentralized governance from Nairobi down to the grassroots. Now, you know, you've already started talking about your experience as far as devolution is concerned, and maybe on some of the demerits it has, and the merits on Mwananchi. Are there maybe some aspects of the older system that you think were working effectively that unfortunately devolution took away? You know, because the one that screams loud is I hear healthcare workers complaining all the time that either they're not getting paid or there's always something happening.
There's a special name for them.
Yeah, they actually want this to go back to the national government, because they feel that this was working more effectively there. And this is primarily healthcare workers. So I don't know if this is a problem across the board.
It's a major problem, and I'll tell you this: devolution, by and large, was and is a very good thing, in the sense that it did two things. First of all, on a political level and on, you know, development level. Political level, there was this essence, as you said, in the case of Moi time. Moi was this demigod who sat in Nairobi somewhere. If you want anything to happen in northern Kenya, you have to figure out a way to bow down to him all the way in Nairobi. Devolution was to resolve that by bringing a governor, like a small president, near you. It's your person, you know him, he's there.
Yeah.
And by the way, most people were and are still very happy with that situation, because irrespective of who president is, their president, quote unquote, is the governor in Mashinani. And that works very well for him, because they can take him to task. They know at some point he will come to the ground, to the village, more often than the president will. That's a very good thing. Now, resources have to follow function, but that's not always the case. And take to the case you've just brought up, health. Healthcare is a fully devolved function, supposed to be a fully devolved function, apart from, say, facilities that are under national government. And the facilities that are under national government are referral hospitals only. Healthcare is one of the most expensive budget item in our country, at around 146.7, almost 150 billion in national government. So you wonder, what are you doing with 150 billion of national money if that function is devolved?
So let me ask a question. Now, before devolution came into place, what was the budget? and I'm not asking for specific numbers, but like you said, if most of the functions were devolved, let's assume that 140 billion, hypothetically speaking,
Yes.
Is the total budget for health in the country
Yes.
Before devolution.
Yes.
So majority of the functions
Yes.
have been taken down to the counties.
Correct.
Yeah, including paying of staff.
Yes.
So out of that 140 billion,
Yes.
like what percentage now is supposed to go if they're legit pushing, if legit resource is following function?
Well,
what proportion of that, and what is actually going, and what proportion is supposed to go?
Okay. I think to answer that correctly, you have to look at how much money goes into counties
Yeah.
in general for county functions.
Okay.
Right? So, for example, Kiambu gets on average about, 18 billion from the exchequer.
Yeah.
Right?
Total.
Yes, total.
Yeah.
Now, for our budget. So now, out of that, our biggest item in that budget is what? Yes,
Healthcare.
healthcare.
Okay.
We spend over 50% of that money.
On healthcare.
Yes. And note, we are paying salaries for doctors, nurses who were under national government before.
Yeah.
And they signed a collective bargaining agreement
With the national.
with the
government.
national government.
Yeah.
But we are the ones who pay for it.
Okay.
And we have approximately 80% of all the facilities from level 5 hospitals all the way down to dispensaries under county government. Yet, we only get 18 billion, which half of it, more than half, almost 60% goes to healthcare.
Okay.
Can you see the disparity now? This is the frustration. This is the real frustration we have with devolution, because not all money has followed the function of health and other resources.
Okay.
And it's not just health. We have other functions that are really frustrating, because you say you've devolved, but there's no resources that follow. Government still wants to keep these functions to themselves. Why, I don't know, but
Are they keeping the functions or the money?
the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a I guess maybe it's a good moment for education. By law, the county governments are supposed to receive what they're supposed to receive by law. I guess it's in the constitution. So if there is
So
whatever the percentage is,
yeah. So to be clear,
yes,
so the constitution is a bit wide open on this. The constitution dictates a minimum,
Yes.
a certain minimum amount,
yes.
which I think
believe
the
it's
government sometimes takes advantage
the
of that.
executive.
And then also, so the minimum was just a baseline, but there's supposed to be a costing for all the functions that that counties took.
Yes.
And based on that costing, that's the amount. Just because the minimum is 15% does not mean 50% cannot go to the counties.
Absolutely
Right.
correct.
Yeah, it just means that that's just the base minimum.
Still,
Yeah,
base minimum
yeah,
per law.
yeah.
But you find, and this was something that was being brought up, you find that it's like the executive has captured. It's like they are forcing, or they're forcing the hand of governors to come to State House to beg for something that they're supposed to
That they're
receive.
entitled
It's
to.
like how we are entitled to go. When you go to apply for your birth certificate or your Kenyan ID, you're entitled to have it,
Yeah,
right? But you have to find a way, or find somebody
to bribe.
to pay. So it's like the governors, they were complaining and saying at some point, maybe in a few years, they might the whole devolution and the whole county idea, the whole devolution might be choked out by the executive, such that, like you're saying, if everything reverts back to the executive when it comes to counties, if it does revert back, we are definitely going back to MO1 days, where
Absolutely.
it's like you now really have to dance.
Okay. Yeah, and
That is the issue.
yeah, and I think and of course this is a new constitution. It's sometimes hard to anticipate stuff. I think there was an assumption that every unit in the new arrangement will be eager to follow the law and do what they're supposed to do. But of course, this clearly did not happen, because I think one of the loopholes that was being used to give counties less money was on using in fact, even what they were determining, what is this 15% of? 15% of the last audited accounts.
Yes.
So if the accounts have not been audited for the last 3 years.
They go back
so
to
we
whatever.
go back to 2021 when the budget was smaller. So we're going to use 15% of that. So it's certain loopholes that are being used. But Joe, there's the governors, the Council of Governors, I think, have gone to court multiple times for this. But this problem still seems to be persisting.
It's getting worse because you can't understand why, for instance, and again to use the example of health, where you would have at the entry level healthcare services of what we call community health workers. Right?
That's the term I was looking for.
Community health workers. These are people who don't have a salary. They have a stipend, right? I think they're paid 2,000 or 3,000. I don't know how much it is. Why would you call those people to national level to launch a service countrywide of community health workers and say, okay, this is our initiative. Go forth. We have, I think they have medical kits or whatever it is. And the national government launches that to be paid by them to go to the villages and do community health service. It's mind-boggling why you'd want to do that.
But that would have to be done by the county.
It's supposed
to be done by the county.
Yes, but recently we had that initiative launched at national level. I think it was done at the deputy president's residence even, right? Take roads, for instance. I'll give you another example. In roads, we have about 3 bodies that take care of roads. We have Kenha, Kura, and Kera. So Kura is Kenya Urban Roads Authority, and we have another authority called Kenya Rural Roads Authority, right? Urban roads and rural roads. Those are national government authorities. Now, village roads, let me call them village roads or rural roads, are supposed to be done by the county. But you have an association or an authority at national level with its budget for doing rural roads. So you wonder then, why is the governor doing a budget? Because we do a budget for rural roads. Why can't they just take all the roads and do them? Why do we have a split level? And where does one road start and where does the other start? So we try to push these issues and said if we had a devolution conference, I think it was last year. And we were promised by the government that we'll have all functions that are supposed to be devolved and resources to follow. And the Council of Governors, as you are alluding to, were, I think the figure they agreed to was 380 billion. That's what goes to counties. Had pitched for about 410 or something around that figure. Till today, we are still operating with the old figure of 380 or 85 billion or whatever it is. Nothing has changed, but functions are bloating within the national within the county government. And to make matters worse, even that money does not come in time. Like now, most counties are operating on 2-year deficit, but we haven't received money in the last 2 months. Or rather, our last money we're in March now. I think the last money came in January.
So that's why, like we get reports of county employees sometimes going without salaries.
Of course.
For 3 months. Does that include members of county assembly?
So we have our budget. So we do our own budget in assembly. We have a split budget.
So where does your money come from? Because if county employees are not getting paid, but the politicians are getting paid.
So we said the politicians. So we have a budget that comes to so the assembly salaries and allowances still come from the national government.
Okay.
It goes, so what happens is we go to the governor and tell them, okay, fine, money is late, at least pay this one thing as we wait for the other monies to come. So
all right.
It's never a case that we hold.
So that one thing is your salo. I'm just asking for friends.
So that one never gets delayed. Those allowances.
No, they get delayed every time.
Okay.
Sometimes 2 months.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Every time.
Now, the Stephen JJ was asking, what about education? I think this is when you mentioned that healthcare was 9 billion out of the 18 billion budget. So he's asking, what about education? Like how much of the budget takes up education?
So education. So the functions that are devolved in education, as far as we're concerned, is ECDs, early childhood development, and TVETs. What you call here community technical colleges. Yes. So majority of that is still under national government. And so what we as a county focus on is building what we call nursery schools. Right. It's early childhood development, it's ECDs.
So primary, secondary,
No.
so
So primary, secondaries, and universities and colleges, that's still under national government.
Why do I normally see students and parents lining up behind members of parliament looking for school fees or maybe looking for bursaries? You know, like at what point, I remember a long time ago there used to be bursaries.
Yes.
But at what point was this task given to members of parliament? Because back when we were in school, there used to be students who used to get bursaries.
Yes.
And I don't think they used to go to members of
You're
parliament, because now I'm understanding that some people are even required to have their parents show their voters cards.
Yes.
So this is this is just very
and
it's a very weird
this is to get
process.
school fees or to get a per diem or to get what?
This is to get a bursary. Yeah,
to get
bursaries.
bursaries.
Yeah, to
And-
pay
and-
school
and-
fees.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't vote for me and you can't vote, why am I
Yes,
giving you money?
and some
That's
legislators do that.
That's how that's how they're looking at it.
And
Yeah.
you're right. You said in your time, your age is showing when you say that,
Yeah.
because that's what used to happen. Bursaries were domiciled at Ministry of Education.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's who you knew at Ministry of Ed,
Yes.
where you are placed,
Yes.
and if
Yeah.
you are with what would I call diplomatic missions, blah blah blah.
Yes.
Apostles of
Yeah.
Power.
So there was a way they were doing it at that time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Enter CDF.
Okay.
CDF is taxed with certain things. You
Okay.
can't just do anything.
Okay.
Bursaries is one of them.
Mhm.
Building administrative blocks like
Yeah.
chief's office comes, police posts, and things like that, and other sort of social economic projects that you'd want to do.
Yeah.
So it's very specific in what you can do. So that's what members of national parliament have done. They've been like, okay, look, I'm going to do bursaries. Some members of parliament have these forms. They say, I'm going to do, say, 10,000 bursaries. Others say, I'll give everybody in my primary school a bursary. I'll just reduce the amount.
So moja na muchukue
There's-
mukienda.
I think
Yeah.
it's someone, I don't know which member of parliament, but somewhere in Moranga, he said everybody gets 2,000 shillings. Everybody. Whether you have a Range Rover or a bicycle, everybody gets 2,000.
Okay, so there's no like asset check or poverty check
None.
like you
Yeah,
have in some jurisdictions.
Yes.
Okay, all right. This is quite interesting. And then Washeke is also saying the Presda and Vice Preso are like, if you don't play ball, you won't get the funding. Gachagua has said that so many times. And then like Stephen JJ says, corruption, relying on banks for loans. That's why they have so many bank accounts. Now, I want to remind the listeners that you're tuned into the One Mic Show, and I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. We're here talking to Honorable Joe Kigara, Minority Leader, Kiambu County Assembly, and MCA Nyenda Ward on a Jubilee ticket. He's currently in the U.S. on a benchmarking trip and will shortly be giving us the details of his tour. Our line is open, and the number to call, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak, so please feel free to call in. Now, later on in the show, we'll talk about benchmarking abroad by Kenyan politicians. This is the big elephant in the room that we want to deconstruct. And, we also want to know why most Kenyans are disgusted by these endless taxpayer-funded trips. But before that, Honorable Kigara, I want to come back to you. Maybe please tell us what you've been doing in the U.S. since you came. So
as
that's
you are
why
marking
people-
the bench.
Yeah.
We are marking the bench.
Yeah, as you're marking the bench, so that we can, deconstruct and
Yes.
uncover
Yes.
this monster called benchmarking.
Okay.
There's other words that are used.
Yes.
Capacity building.
Yes.
Mainstreaming.
Yes.
There's a lot of English words that are used, but
le-
to a lot of Kenyans,
Yes.
this is excessive government wastage. Politicians just getting a chance to go to foreign countries and do a lot of things that have no benefit to the Monanchi.
Okay.
So, Mheshimiwa.
So I think maybe while we say politicians and benchmarking, those two terms tend to sort of glide well
They rhyme.
and rub people the wrong way.
Yeah.
But essentially, you're talking about state officers, because it's not just politicians who go to do benchmarking. Remember, we have state officers who work in executive wings of either national government or county government, and they're also prone to the same narrative.
By state officers, do you mean elected officials or elected
No.
officials plus other
Exactly.
state officers?
So yes,
Yeah.
so you could have officers who work in ministries,
Okay.
CSAs, PSAs,
Mhm.
their staff, government CECs,
Okay.
chief officers.
When you talk about CEC, because remember you're talking to a crowd that maybe is not familiar with these
so
acronyms. This is
chief executive, members of the committee members of the executive.
okay.
That's the equivalent of a minister.
Of a county minister.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
So all state officers, including now MCAs,
Mhm.
I think would have to answer this question. But for me, the exchange program, what I'm here for is an exchange program. Just to add one more terminology to the benchmarking.
Okay.
And why that is important is, first of all, the program I'm under is actually courtesy of County Assemblies Forum, which is a forum that brings together all county members under one umbrella, and they're the ones who lobby what we should participate in and what is not of value.
Okay.
Now, the Ministry of Devolution in Kenya came up with, in conjunction with the Foreign Ministry, came up with a rule that state officers should not travel at any one time more than 6 of them actually, right? So people used to travel 15, 20 members at any one time.
Okay.
So a new legislation came and said, look, at any one time, if at all you have to travel, like in our case, you have 5.
So no delegations of 20.
No delegation of
You
5.
you can't split them. Watu wengine waende na
Mtoke
British
kesho.
Airways na wengine waende na nini.
You can, but
ALM.
not for the same mission. So you, like, if you have to come to the States, for
Yes.
instance, watu wa 6, 5 elected officials and 1 staff member, because you always have to have a staff member.
O huyo ndio anaandikaga mavitu. Okay.
Yes. Now, what we have done for this particular mission for Kiambu is sent 1 member, just 1,
So that's just you.
just myself.
So who's scribing for you?
Myself. I'll do a report. I'm doing a report. So we have consultants here on this end
Okay.
who organizing the meetings, doing everything, and so they're the ones who are doing that part. So we realize there's really no point of bringing anybody else.
Okay.
It's an exchange mission. Now the part which we need to remember here, and I think we need to highlight, it's an exchange mission, which means the party, and this is not to understand, we're here to visit Philadelphia's City Council.
So that's where you came to visit.
That's where I came to visit.
Philadelphia
I mean,
City
we've done
Council.
DC, but DC was just to understand the how the American policy. You have to, if you're a politician and you come to the States, you have to pay homage to the capital city of politics, right?
So exactly, and this homage is what we're trying to understand,
Yes.
because it's being funded by taxpayers'
Right,
money. Like,
right.
What exactly
So
is
the,
homage?
The DC is basically just to understand where. In fact, it was not even very necessary. That's something that took 2 hours. The rest of
Okay.
the day, we are back to other business, right?
Okay.
But the Philadelphia one is an exchange mission where we get to meet the council members of Philadelphia City Council and understand how they do their legislation, how they do their business, and versus how we do ours.
Okay.
Now, we organized a whole day yesterday. I met the president of the council representatives, council members, they call them. I met other council officials, council representatives, they call them. We had meetings, we spoke about many things. Now, here's the thing. I got to see how they run their session, right?
Okay.
Talking about benchmarking, how residents of Philadelphia present their issues to their representatives,
Okay.
how their representatives address them and take on those issues, and how what steps are taken when they need something changed. And we are talking about anything from someone who wants their local basketball court redone to someone whose the drainage has been blocked, anything and everything.
Yeah.
We had residents, and this was so interesting for me to see, about 12 residents get about 7 minutes each to come and present their issues. And some of those issues had already been presented by their representatives, but they're just, emphasizing these issues. And some were just commenting that, by the way, my council member here brought in this issue. I just want to thank him on behalf of my district, they call them districts, that he's done a good job. So it's a whole variety of things. Why this is important is, in Kiambu right now, the hot button issue we have right now is a a bill called Valuation and Rating Act, which was passed in 2016. That's what now is occupying our thoughts and minds today. That bill was passed by, obviously, the legislatures who were there on 2016 before the elections of 2017. So it was done very hurriedly, and they left in 2017. And we were like, what's that all about? Come in, the legislators who were there next, 2017 to 2022, and we discovered it was a bill which was so punitive and so retrogressive to the residents of Kiambu. Why? Because it sought to impose rates on leasehold landowners in Kiambu, something which is unheard of. You can imagine your Shosho there with his piece of land. She's farming her cuckoos and everything else, and she's supposed to pay land rates. That's unheard of.
Plus the rent for the cuckoos.
Plus the rent for the cuckoos and everything else. Now, this bill went silent for the whole of the last term for Waitito and Nyoro in Kiambu. They looked at it, it was a ticking time bomb, they didn't do anything about it. Enter Kina us the other year, and a bill which looks, it's a monster, it's a monstrosity. So we say, okay, fine, we're going to change it. But in our efforts, as we are looking at it to change it, a lobby group, let me call them a lobby group called Bunge Mashinani, get wind of it, and they decide they're going to petition Kiambu Assembly for us to change it. No problem, anybody can do that. But the way they did it is the issue, right? Because we had truckloads of people. It was like a demonstration. Kiambu came to a standstill for 2-3 hours. It was like a riot. They came to the assembly, they're banging on the gates, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it's a bill that was passed in 2016. Why this is important is this. The manner in which petitions, or this particular petition was brought to our attention, well, we already knew about it anyway, but the manner in which a petition was brought to us, and I looked at how petitions or presentations are brought in this assembly, in the session in Philadelphia, is miles apart. Because somebody was asking me, why can't you have members of public come to the assembly of Kiambu and present petition? Like, actually, that's a good idea. We don't have an issue. But then, going by what we've seen so far, you would have almost riots every day because some people are generally very disruptive. So you would not even have sessions take off. So I was just juxtaposing how legislation is done in City Council of Philadelphia versus how we do it in Kiambu and presumably other counties. And it's a world of difference. I would love to have members of public come to the plenary in Kiambu and present petition.
But that would be possible. It should be possible.
Fair enough, but is it necessary to send someone from Kiambu to Philadelphia to find out how people present in the Philadelphia County Assembly? Because now I'm trying to think from the perspective of a regular constituent in Kiambu County.
Yes.
From me where I'm seated,
yes.
I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. And sometimes, yes, we say that people like complaining, but I'm just trying to think of, for example, like this example that you've given us. Is this something that really needs someone to be sent? Air ticket, hotel, travel allowance, per diem to do this. Okay. And even, let's say, like hypothetical, let's say it's necessary to do that. Are we going to have a version of the Philadelphia County Assembly in Kiambu now based on the fact that you've come to Philadelphia?
Yeah.
And then you've, done the report and you've brought it back. So now the people of Bunge Mashinani will see it and they'll stop coming and banging on the doors of the Kiambu County Assembly.
Actually,
J6 style.
Remember, I called it an exchange mission. And that's the whole idea. We have one person come to actually, it's like lobbying. You're coming to lobby the city council of Philadelphia, first of all, to see how they do legislation. But that's not all. We're looking to see how they engage their residents in issues, commerce, for instance. And we sat with some of the council members, and they were telling me, look, I met this lady whose job is to engage the black, what do they call it? The women in business or something of that sort.
Yeah.
So they have a quota
Mhm.
for how they should engage. A certain amount of money goes to women of color, and
Yeah.
they're supposed to do business. That's one.
Yeah.
We have a space for green energy,
Mhm.
right? And how they engage people in business in green energy. We have people in waste management,
Yeah.
and how they engage entrepreneurs in that level. So there's a whole element of commerce that can again now be adopted into how we can also use do the same thing in Kiambu. Now, essentially, what would be the ideal scenario is to have a sister city partnership, and that's what we are pushing for.
Yeah.
So that at least we have a sustainable engagement of ideas and exchange of resources. Remember, if they come to, if we are successful and we have legislators agree and to come to Kiambu, we are creating commerce also. There's someone who's going to house them in hotels. There are people who are going to drive them around. They will sell. We are putting Kiambu on the map. So
At least not buying that.
So does that include before Ali eats you? Does that include investment? Because I heard you talking about how they do things and how they're setting up, I guess, engagement with the city, meeting certain quotas, blah blah blah, and so on. Is there, as part of this mission that you have, was investment also possibly like, okay, so we want to get, say, maybe not necessarily the city of Philadelphia investing in Kiambu, but business people in Philadelphia potentially who may have something, maybe some manufacturing or whatever, to come to Kiambu. And if that's the case, what type of, in this particular scenario, in your scenario, since you're the one who did it, what did you see that is possible that Kiambu could offer? Like, let's say, maybe kuna msea, I don't know, anafanya production, anafanya nini, viazi. Hizi viazi zinachongwa huku Stato. So we have already made viazi ziko hapo, so give them a factory, they come, they do that stuff there, maybe it's brought over here on that flight here in New York, I don't know.
So I'll give you the case of the one I spoke about for landfill, right? We have a massive landfill in Thika, right? If you go there, it's like a small town of waste, right? And the people I was talking to wanted to understand how we manage this waste and what we do with it. Because remember, there are people who use that waste for recycling and making products, and the people who make bricks, I think.
Yes, exactly. I remember that the company
exactly.
That does
that is something. In fact, in Philly, they can't get enough waste. Because like, look, it's there's waste, yes, but the kind of raw waste we're talking about is something that they can be compressed and used in manufacturing building material. That is a conversation, of course, not with the Philadelphia City Council, but the Philadelphia City Council has connection with business people who are already engaging in that. Because remember, they have incentives, I suppose, I would call them that, for people who engage in recycling or renewable energy and these kind of things. So they have people who can either deploy that technology in Kiambu or whatever else. So it's our work to try and mash or lobby for these kind of investors to come in and do this, or maybe even sell us the technology so that we can do it ourselves.
So does Kiambu have a Chamber of Commerce?
Yes.
So
in fact, the Chamber of Commerce is in all counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, just to
As you breathe, let's read some comments.
Okay.
Ama you want to?
No. Go ahead and read the comments.
Jamara toa nyundo bana.
No, because over here, Mimo Koinange karibu, Washeke karibu, Stephen JJ, because Stephen JJ has a propensity of saying that I don't read his comments.
So propensify and read his.
Yeah. Okay. So, what about education? And I think
we did that already.
Washeke says the president and vice president are like, if you don't play ball, you won't get the funding. Ashagwa said strategic corruption relying on banks or for loans. That's why they have any bank accounts. How he says wash jamaz wamelipwa kukuja kuharibu kila kitu. And I think Omosh asked this question. This is what Washeke was saying or asking. What's the ROI on this particular trip? What are the benefits to the citizens.
Now, even before we go to that direct ROI, first of all, what's the cost? Because we're trying to understand, and there's a very interesting trend that I've noticed that a lot of politicians, MCAs, members of parliament, they like traveling to certain places. It's very rare to hear, like an MCA has gone to Malawi,
Glasgow,
or has gone to, Botswana. It's always the US, the UK, and maybe, like a couple of other
somewhere in Europe,
European countries. Yes, they do have trips in other places, but a majority, and maybe you can correct us if maybe we don't have this information, but we see them. We always, I'll tell you, like every week, or let me say every month, for a very long time, we've always, because we're in touch with people, who work in the embassy, there's always someone, there's always a Kenyan government official, like who's visiting for one reason or another. So we're trying to understand, for example, like your trip, from where you started, from Nairobi JKIA, did you travel, first class, business
class,
economy,
Euro 1?
Because and this is in the spirit of transparency. Yeah.
I'll tell you something, Ali and the gang. One thing I don't shy away from is being asked questions.
Yes.
In fact, the very reason I went into politics is so that I can bring and shed light, because I was also tired of being at the back seat and just asking questions. Why are they doing this, that, and the other? In fact, I don't know how many MCAs you've interviewed here, but you're
the first one.
You'll find very few.
We did have some from Nakuru so many years ago.
That was a long time ago. Should we say we count them? Okay, we'll count them.
Yeah.
So
and what was it? One of them was a voice presenter, was a presenter. KTN was a personality.
Was a TV personality. I'm forgetting his name, and he's a brother to a diaspora.
Yes.
To Ricky. I'm forgetting his name. He used to be a sports anchor, and he was working for Nakuru County.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he's in media space, so he'll want to do this. It would be very difficult to have people come talk to this because of
Eddie Kimani.
Yes, I know Eddie Kimani.
Eddie Kimani. You interviewed him a while back. When we used to be called Matchbox Studios.
Yes. So no, we don't travel business class, not by any stretch of imagination. And by the way, let me tell you, you first class. Jeez,
we're just
maybe in the bus. I've been using the bus around. That's how I get along.
Okay.
You have to understand that members of county assembly are not paid anywhere near what you think a state official gets paid. There is such a big difference between an MCA and even not even a member of parliament. I don't know.
Are you talking Are you talking in terms of salary, or are you talking in terms of per diem?
Allowance, everything.
Yeah.
Everything, because it's a certain job group.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no opulence when it comes to the office of an MCA. Members of parliament, maybe, I don't know. I can't talk on their behalf. I can only talk for what members of county assembly, and it's very, very few. I don't know. Do you see them here? Members of county assembly coming? I know very few.
They normally
I don't know any.
They normally come as part of.
They come as part of delegation.
Part of a delegation.
Yeah.
If they come part of a delegation, by the way, it's now illegal for legislators to use a budget of the county executive. So sometimes that's what could happen. So the president can say, okay, fine. Do you know anybody else who's an elected official who we need to travel with? Right.
Okay, then they're
so,
put in.
Or I go with the governor. I can't do that.
So like your trip here, who is funding this trip? Is it?
It's funded by the assembly, the budget of the Kiambu assembly.
The Kiambu assembly.
Yes.
Okay.
Not even the governor.
Okay.
We have a budget for that, and it's approved by the control of budget, because it's something you budget for in advance.
Okay.
And it's approved by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So there's very many levels of approval before even I can leave JKIA to go anywhere. And by the way, this is the first time I'm leaving the motherland, that is Africa, to go anywhere, official duties.
As an MCA?
Yes, as an MCA.
Okay.
And I don't see
We're talking about the control of budget, the one who stopped a payment of about very many billions for car purchases for State House.
Yes.
That control of budget.
That control of budget. By the time they
Just
give
checking.
a nod for you to travel, to use your budget, even if it's in the budget, they can still say, hey.
They can still say no.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why, as an assembly of Kiambu, our role is to also check something where, we are allowed to go up to 5 people.
So a trip like this where you said you're rolling solo, just give us an estimate. It doesn't have, because you see the numbers, you see the budgets, and you're the one who's here and spending the money that has been allocated to you. So just on average for an MCA like you, on a trip like this where you're spending a week in the United States, approximately how much money are we talking about? From your travels, to your food, to your per diem, to your transport, and just all other costs associated with you being here until you go.
Do you know, I can tell you, I haven't computed it, to be honest, but I can tell you
that's
this.
why we can work with estimates.
I can tell you this.
Yeah.
Whatever I'm spending is not even enough to what I'm being paid. I can tell you that for sure, because we are paid very little. In fact, if you look at, for instance, we pay our consultants something about $1,000 for facilitation, meetings, and all this.
Is that a day or in general?
In general, not a day. In general.
What do you mean by consultants? Yeah, I mean, you mean like a
so,
personal assistant?
So we actually have to get a certificate. So we have meetings, we have classes, we have all these things. And when I go back, I have to present a certificate of everything I've been doing. Yeah. Right? That comes from an institution. Okay. Even other members, when we go to study anywhere, even locally, you get a certificate. Yeah. Because you have to take that back to the clerk of the assembly to show what you've been doing. Right? So a ticket from Nairobi is what? About 2,000? It's about 3,000 now. With the exchange rate, that takes almost about 400 or 500, 300 to 400,000 on a ticket. I can tell you that the figures here, in fact, by trip of it's not even a week, it's 5 days, and you're taking 2 days of traveling each side. So it's a very short program. There's absolutely no opulence in this. I can tell you that much.
So
sure.
I understand, like there's no opulence, but there's a cost.
There's a cost.
Yeah.
There's a cost. And for assembly,
it
is nowhere near what other state officials spend in the ministries or in governors' offices and so.
But what are those numbers for assembly members? What are they looking like? Because, and the reason is because there's a question here that was asked, like what's the return on investment? Because the other alternative is, the county or the assembly doesn't have enough money. Let's figure out another way of doing this without sending someone there. That's the other alternative. Yes. And that's the reason why this question for return on investment. Yes. And it's a simple number you can give us. It doesn't have to be accurate. It could be, like $1,000. It could be $10,000. It could be $25,000.
So when I say that, whatever we are spending here is almost not enough. Yeah. You're talking about a ticket which costs about $2,000. And then you have $1,000 for facilitations and everything else. Then you're going to spend another $1,000 for living, and that's it.
Okay. And so less than $5,000.
Less than $5,000. Okay. In fact, way less than $5,000.
Okay. Right? For an MCA.
For an MCA.
On a 1-week trip to the US.
On a 5-day trip to the US. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All
so
right.
So do you think that maybe you guys are just being a little bit frugal because of your figure, Joe?
No. We don't have an alternative. We have to be extremely frugal. And by the way, we have had numerous meetings online before we do this with other places. Before we zero in on one which we can say, okay, let's send one person. Okay. Right? We've spoken to the UK, I believe, the House of Commons, like that one we can do online. We have had South Africa, we go online, that one we can go online. This one, where there's potential of having investors on a one-on-one and talking to them, and them coming over, I think one person and having maybe about 5 to 10 legislators come to Kiambu. I think that's a good trade-off to answer the question on return on investment.
Okay. Right. All right. Fair enough. There's Luis Muya here saying, boss, people should take online classes. I'm sure you can find the same program online. And then a couple of questions here are coming from Washeke. He says it feels like politicians and civil servants clamor to visit places that could have a higher per diem. And then she further says, but since you are on county business, is in the county paying for your travel costs? And I think you verified that it's the county assembly.
It's the county assembly,
That's
not
paying
the
for your
county
travel
government.
costs. Yeah. So they're taking it from their budget. And then Washeke says the politician in him has come out. I don't know exactly what that means. Washeke maybe
because he didn't give us a figure and break it down in.
But he just did.
No. I mean, he.
But he said he spent out of pocket whatever money was given. It was not enough to facilitate his movement.
I don't know if he said he spent out of pocket.
Yeah.
I think he just saying that in comparison, zile per diem zile za 3K per day.
Okay.
You go anywhere near.
He's an MCA.
Yes. MCA. And by the way, if you go to SRC website, everything
Salaries and
remuneration commission website, all these figures are posted there.
Yeah.
Right, and they're posted per day and per region, so you can tell very easily if someone's going to, say for instance, Arusha, how much they're supposed to be paid and so on and so forth.
Washeke, I think, is headed there right now.
To SRC.
SRC,
Yeah.
The website is there.
.co.ke.
Yeah. But again, like I think the challenge that you will have and other members of county assembly and other politicians will have is now going back to the ground, to the ground, and justifying this to the regular people who are looking for development, because like $4,000 or whatever amount to us that may not sound like a lot of money, but to someone down there they feel like that's money that could have gone towards
school fees,
something different. Because even when you look back, because these trips have been happening for as long as we've been in the United States.
Exactly.
But the question comes in all these trips that have been happening, for example, like our county assemblies, are they now becoming like the Maryland Montgomery County Assembly? Is there like any tangible change that people, because you said perception is everything, and the people who are the constituents, that's where perception really matters. Can they sit and say, hey, based on what we used to have in 2014 and what we have today, there's so much development. Like these guys are doing a much better job, or those benchmarking trips have really made them understand how the world works and how things are much better.
Benchmarking will never, I don't think, ever have a good connotation with any elected official, any constituent. I don't think you'll ever go and ask anybody if someone has gone to benchmark, are you seeing any tangible case? Because you have to be really astute into how you look at the return on investment on something like benchmarking. You have to go and say, okay, fine. Last budget, this particular government spent X amount on benchmarking. They have cut 80%. Who do you think, the people who were talking earlier, who do you think is going to make that comparison? So I have to come to a show and tell you, look, we have saved a massive amount of money on something like this, where we would have spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars with one person, Okay.
I was gonna say, I think one important thing is, I'm even glad he's here, because to understand the role of what an MCA does, or what they do. Because for a while, I thought that MCAs, from what I'd been told, MCAs are responsible for development. They're responsible
and blocking the governor.
Well, we'll discuss that. That too. And impeaching them. Impeaching.
Yeah.
But,
especially if they refuse to approve money for benchmarking.
Yes.
And per diem.
Those ones. He's gonna address that. But I think it is important to understand how it works. And I'm glad there has been an explanation on what the role of an MCA is. One, oversight, legislate, and what was the other one?
Representation.
And representation.
Yeah.
Hawana fund, hawana kiti.
Yeah.
So they can't be told, okay, sasa wewe enda ward yako, tengeneza bridge or barabara or
a cattle dip.
Or a cattle dip.
Yeah.
And then, or a footbridge.
Yeah.
Right? Or, dispensary or whatever.
Or a toilet.
That one.
Yeah.
Which
And-
toilet? Ile ya nini ama ile ya nje ama
Pit latrine.
Pit latrine.
Pit latrine.
But you launch it.
But you launch
with
it
ribbons and
with
a
ribbons
pair
and
of
whatever.
scissors.
Ake Mungu nyinyi
Umse-
watu.
That's what happens.
That's what we've seen. No, it's what we've
That's
seen.
what happens.
That is what we've
Kuje
seen.
pole pole
Yeah.
bana.
No, but you see,
Mtafukuza mgeni.
no.
But if
But you see, that's what we've seen. That's what we see. That's what the media houses, and that.
Or
How
even-
many people went to the conference in, was it Qatar, for
Or the environment.
the environment?
Or was
whatever.
it Dubai? I think it was
No,
Dubai.
it was
one of those.
Qatar. It was Qatar.
It was
Qatar.
Qatar,
It was
yeah.
green
Okay.
something.
What
It was
was
green.
the,
Was it COP28?
Yes,
or
that
something
was
like
that on
yeah.
COP.
Mhm.
What was the delegation?
Yeah, watu
African
walikuwa
delegation.
Ke-
Watu
Kenya
walikuwa
had a
wengi.
strong delegation.
How
Kenya
many?
had a very big delegation.
How many?
I can't
Walikuwa
remember
over
the
100.
numbers, but
There were
was
over
a big
100.
number.
Walikuwa wengi.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You know,
how many of those were MCAs?
I don't know.
no, as long as you're a delegation,
I don't know.
But the point.
I don't know.
Yes.
I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, and I also
Yeah.
understand when you say, you know, like now he makes it clear that okay, the law stipulates that unless you're going, like say with the governor or the president is asking for you,
Yes.
you huwezi kajipeleka,
No.
right?
Yeah.
So it would be nice now to break down the people who went for COP28.
Yes.
Then you list in terms of ranking, not ranking, but position wise, how many MCAs were there.
Transparency.
Yeah, you know what-
which is very lacking.
Which is very lacking.
Yeah.
And then you're going for a climate change, whatever, but you're going over 100 people. Numbers would say it's 700. I don't believe it. But there were over 100
There
people.
could be 700.
There could be 700.
And 600 were shopping and 100 were in the...
And again, then you would
plenary.
ask, what is the ROI on that? Right? So I think sometimes it's important to first understand like what the roles are. So like in this case, I'm learning what the role of an MCA is, which is similar to a member of
a
parliament.
member of parliament, yeah.
I did not know that,
Yeah.
but I've learned that today. And once you learn that, then you can understand. Then you understand the processes. You know, like now I'm trying to understand, like he was saying, how or what can be done. For example, if healthcare is fully devolved, how is it then the national government still has its hand in the cookie jar?
It's still holding the money.
It's exactly,
It's
but
still holding
why?
the bag.
And using what you said, per the constitution,
Yeah.
there's a minimum
There's a
that
minimum,
is supposed to, if anything,
which is a baseline.
baseline,
Yeah.
but minimum.
Yeah.
They deserve it. That is theirs.
Yeah.
Mbona nakuja kuomba?
Now, the one thing that
That's what you know.
Yes. So the one thing that has always confused me, there's this body called the Commission for Revenue Allocation. You know, like, which is a body that has, you know, like commissioners and people who are paid to ensure that the money follows the functions. Yeah. And they create these formulas of these are the functions that have gone to the county assembly. This is how much money is supposed to go there. So is there a place where, you know, like, for example, like the counties can refer to and say, the Commission for Revenue Allocation said that Kiambu County is supposed to get, let's say, for example, to take care of the functions that it's been given, it's supposed to get 40 billion. But the national government is only assigning them 18 billion.
Yes.
So is there a place where people can go to make that comparison of how much counties are supposed to get as opposed to how much counties are actually being given?
So the Commission for Revenue Allocation has its formula that, of course, it works out as per population, functions, and what have you.
Yeah.
That figure is then presented to Treasury. It's presented to Parliament for approval. It's taken to Treasury. Now, it's never enough as far as any county is concerned. Never enough. So it is up to senators, for instance. They're the ones whose work is to lobby for funds to come, go back to revenue allocation and tell them this formula of yours is warped. Kiambu or Nairobi or any other county needs more funds. So if I suppose to answer your question, is your first point of reference is your senator, because senators are the ones who are mandated to fight for resources to go to counties.
Okay.
That's their job. That's their number one job. And
Who's the current Kiambu senator?
He's called Karungo Wadhangwa.
Karongo Wadhangwa. Wamatangi became the
Governor.
The governor.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And
They're very good friends,
Okay.
quote unquote.
And there's a high probability and chance of him being impeached.
Okay.
Which one?
By
He'll
these
tell
guys.
us.
By
No,
these
no,
guys.
by these guys.
Which one?
Wamatangi.
Wamatangi.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of hoopla going on in Kiambu, but he'll tell
We'll
us.
talk about that.
You
but-
had to remove series za Kiambu na watu wa
No,
Kisii
it's
washasema
in-
wanapeleka ule wao huko.
It's in the
Oh,
past.
sorry.
Ashaenda.
Huyo governor deputy
Yeah.
ashaenda.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, but let's stick to the point. Let's
Okay.
stick to the point.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
We were talking about like the Commission for Revenue Allocation.
Yes.
And the monies, like my thinking is that they tell us these are the functions, because
Yes.
I mean it's very simple. Like if this bottle of water costs $1,
Yes.
and I'm tasking you with the responsibility of buying a bottle of water, so that means I have to give you the $1
Yes.
to be able to purchase this bottle of water. So
Yes.
so where's the complication? Like when the CRA provides the numbers,
Yes.
and the numbers that are actually
Okay.
sent out to the counties.
Okay.
Where does that discrepancy occur?
So first of all, the national government never has enough money as far as to match the functions that are required by county governments. It's never enough, right? In fact,
That's what they're saying, or that's what we know.
for a fact, have you seen how much debt we have? We do
I'm
not have money,
No, I'm
for
just
sure.
saying.
If
I
there
mean,
is-
hey, you can tell us. As we don't see the money, that's why I'm asking this question.
So are you saying that the government is justified in not sending?
No. I'm not saying they're justified. I'm just saying, as far as their coffers are concerned,
Yeah.
they don't have enough money. Because remember, as I said earlier, we've been lobbying to increase county devolve kitty from 385 billion as it is to 410,
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
okay.
It's just 410, right? We had requested more. The Council of Governors had requested more, but we stuck at 380. It was a big hula baloo. Counties even almost went on strike and everything, but we settled. Okay, let's take that first as we talk. Right?
But the lawsuit is for how much? The one that's currently lodged, isn't that for 450 or something?
No, I think I don't know whether it's for. I think it's 410
Okay.
or something like that.
All right.
Now, something interesting then happens in between that. Remember, you have gone with a figure which was the previous maybe 2 or 3 financial years. In between that, the executive or the president of the day has a manifesto to employ. And this manifesto did not take into account your budget for that time, right? It comes and says, for instance, I'll give you an example, affordable housing, right?
Yes.
Affordable housing
Where?
is and by the way, that's something else we were discussing with the City Council of Philadelphia, because they have a similar program running. So the national government comes and says, look, we need land from every county government for us to do affordable housing. You as the governor had plans for that land. So you cede it to the national government, it becomes, you've lost an asset, which is something which sticks in your balance sheet, because now it's something which you can't bank on because the national government wants it, right?
But even if you give out the land or whatever, and let's say Ali's construction is given the contract to build.
Yes.
The land is county land.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
The land is county land. Government is building on that.
Once you cede it, Gava takes it. It's no longer yours.
Okay, what about rates? Like, even if you build, don't you pay land
Boss,
rates?
That's gone.
It's a wrap.
You see, remember,
Imeenda.
the governor, remember I told you there's something called a plan, a 5-year plan that you do. And maybe the governor wanted to build a dispensary or a stadium.
A cattle dip.
Or cattle dip.
Well, we don't do cattle dips anymore.
No, it's a
but
deal.
let's assume.
Okay, fine. Or let's say a hospital dispensary. Something,
yes,
something.
An
Yes.
asset for the county.
Yes.
Right? That one has gone. Now, you have to look, if you still want to do a dispensary, you have to look for land elsewhere. It will cost you. Now, you're going back
Whereas
into your pocket.
whereas it wouldn't have cost you because
Exactly.
already you had.
You
Now,
had an
remember,
asset, yeah.
your budget was not increased in the first place. Now you're even losing
looking more
assets.
money. Okay.
Do you understand? So this is the tug of war sometimes we have with national governments and implement. Markets is another one, right? You give us land, we'll build a market. You get X amount as the county.
A market, like you mean like an open air market?
Open air
or closed? It doesn't matter. Or Juakali or whichever.
Story building market.
So there was a market supposedly that was built between Umo and Kariobangi South that was supposed to be opened and used.
What market?
I think the idea was to move guys from Gikosh.
Got you.
Right?
Got you.
To that place.
Like a Juakali. It's like a Juakali slash
it's
market.
A market.
It's a market.
And then there are
for
stalls.
All sorts of vendors.
So there are stalls.
Okay, understood.
But guys are not moving. Facility has been built.
Boss.
The structure is there. And here's another thing. Let me tell you. Otuko. Modenya. Traffic. Bro. Umoja.
No, but
Hapo Auta. Caltex.
Correct.
But
why would you move from where Nini is now?
Gikosh.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Which is accessible, by the way, to everybody. And then you're going to Umo.
No. So that was land. Yeah. I'm assuming that it was whatever. I don't know what procedure, or who built what, but if that is the case, because it has been built, the structure is there. No go occupant.
But I think generally the problem entirely with our political process, and here it's me talking from outside it, and we're very appreciative of you coming and opening up the hood for us to see what's in the engine and some of those moving parts that we may not see. But I think, the problem with our political system is that it's been designed not to serve the Mwananchi. And why do I say this? It's, I tend to feel like in Kenya we have a lot of enterprising people, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, and we do a lot of big things. We have a lot of people who do projects. We have problem solvers. And I think a big problem that generally we have is we look up to politicians, and I'm hoping in one of these benchmarking trips you can try to figure this out. We look up to politicians to solve these problems. We are talking about very big problems, economic problems, engineering problems. They do not necessarily, like when you have an engineering problem, you go to engineers. Now, the problem is that we look up to politicians to do this, and what do politicians know? What politicians are very good at is in creating these things that is going to build their popularity and get them re-elected. And I'm not saying all politicians, but a majority. So a lot of these projects that I see are solutions looking for a problem. Like where?
That's where you headed.
This is true. There are solutions looking for a problem because when, for example, you go build a market somewhere where the vendors know for sure, like people are not coming to this side. So you build your market, but I'm not coming there. But then those people who built the market, either, I don't know that they didn't know or whether they just felt like having this big market and taking photo ops and showing them is something that's going to boost their popularity, because that's what happens. Because we've also seen cases of ambulances, which are very nice, very beautiful, labeled ambulance, but inside ni matatu. Because an ambulance has to come with whatever an ambulance requires inside to be able to do the emergency work. But inside ni matatu, and we constantly keep seeing this, which is where, I'm getting to a point where I'm trying to figure out where did the rain start beating us? Because it seems like those people who are very good at doing these political things are the ones who become successful, become very popular, and the people who actually go out there and try, like you, for example, we don't know how, like your 2027 will be looking like, because people who actually try, think about it. Bakweni MP Kivutha, think about it. Kivutha lost an election, and he was the SI unit of governance, governance,
or whatever governance.
And now a politician should do, but he lost an election.
Correct.
Yeah, he lost an election. So are we And not saying that America has its own very, very serious problems.
Yes.
Yeah, very big problems. But I'm here just trying to now deliberate and trying to figure out we have the majority of people there are those people who know how to politic. You know, like go give perceptions to this and that. And then the guy who's actually out there grinding and trying to do work, ndo ule ataonekana ni kama hajafanya kitu.
But my question would be,
yes,
imagine a scenario,
yeah,
you will, that you actually have politicians,
yeah,
let's call them leaders,
yeah,
who actually promise something and
deliver. Yeah.
Right? At that point in time, and this is my issue, will we then acknowledge, will we ever get to a point we acknowledge? Because it seems to me sometimes we are resigned to, the fatalism theory of, look, this is always what happens. We are never going to see a change. It doesn't matter what they say. And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
In my ward, I have a level 5 hospital, right? Gatundu level 5 hospital. For the time health services have been devolved, that hospital has been deplorable. No machines working, no medicine, staff demotivated, nothing. It's just a structure. You go there, you see a doctor who's not motivated, they write for you a prescription, you go outside to get the medicine, x-ray, outside, CT scan, outside, everything.
Yeah.
Right? In the last 1 year, by the way, this is the first budget we are implementing. Because remember, when we came in 2022, we had half a budget cycle. We do a supplementary budget. We passed our main budget, our first budget last year, which is ending this financial year around May, right? In that budget, we have bought machines. In that one hospital, we have state-of-the-art X-ray machine, ultrasound, a plant, energy, what do you call it? Gas plant, oxygen plant. We're building a funeral. So, and medicine, a big element of medicine. Now, most people know till today that there's no medicine in that hospital. Today, if you go to Gatundu and say, how is the hospital? You are in a dawa.
So that's a narrative that's prevailing.
Today.
Yeah.
Now, we went there. If you look at my Facebook page,
yeah,
there's a time we did a walk around with the governor, right? Me and him and some officers. And we went and we picked out some patients who are sitting somewhere with their medical cards.
Yeah.
And we asked, what's the issue here? And they told us medicine. Like, okay, bring your card. And we looked at some of them. One is saying there's no medicine from November. We went and asked the pharmacist, do you have this medicine? Said, yes, we have it. He says, mama, mbona unasema hakuna dawa? No, mimi nilikuja last year, November, hakukuwa na dawa. So you're saying today there's no medicine? Yes.
So those people have been responding because they saw you guys?
Who?
Now the people, like the staff.
The pharmacy.
The pharmacy.
No. But you see, this lady has not even bothered to re-ask again.
Okay.
This is a card which was told about 3 months ago that there was no medicine that time. Today, her first instinct is, I'm not even going to bother.
First
instinct is that I'm not going to bother because there's no medicine.
Because the last time I came, there was no medicine.
But whatever you've done in the last 3 months, in the minds of people,
it sticks.
But
let me hasn't stuck.
But let me say something, Joe. Let me and I think because what ends up happening now, I think if you're doing that, then another question that I'm going to ask: what exactly are you doing, or are you guys doing, to make sure that the word goes out that you've bought machines?
That people feel the change.
You have because it's one thing to get.
Yes.
It's one thing to get stuff, get equipment, get drugs, turn on the power, anything. It's another thing now to let people know that we have these things. Because if you just get and you leave them there and don't do anything, they're not going to know.
Absolutely.
So then it behooves also that not only you know exactly what the plight is, you know that there is a lack. Like you said, prior to you guys coming in, it was just a structure, level 5. That was it. but
There's
from
been improvements.
so there has been improvement in terms of getting equipment,
Yeah.
getting medicine, and whatever else. Then what have you guys, or what did you do, or what did the county government of Kiambu do? Forget walking around with the governor.
Yeah.
But what other outlets have you used, or do you use, to let people know of the changes that
Okay.
you guys are doing, or have done, not even doing,
Yeah.
have done?
And
Okay.
just to piggyback on what Uno is saying, if I've gone to a place for, let's say, like maybe the past 9 months, and that has been the same song, there's nothing wrong with me assuming 3 months later that
I
if
will
go back-
definitely assume that. I'm not even
and
going
here
to.
I'm thinking at a very human level.
Yes.
I'm thinking at a very human
And also
level.
at a Kenyan level, because
Yeah.
at some point tunawachanga
Yeah,
kuuliza.
because for the last, like maybe X number of months, or even maybe for the last 2 years, there's been no medicine, so what makes me think that coming 3 months later,
Yeah.
that automatically this medicine will be there at a very human level?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a good question. So what I've done is I go around telling people, look, if you go to the hospital and you're told there's no medicine,
Yeah.
right? By the way, my office, my ward office is
Yeah.
right opposite the hospital, right? Go and fill out. I have a book.
Yeah.
And I tell them, just write for me the medicine they said
Yeah.
don't
that
have.
they don't have.
Every
Okay.
week I look at that list
Yeah.
and I go and check. I use my staff, go and check,
Yeah.
why don't we have this medicine? 9 out of 10 times, and by the way, this is another issue we're grappling with, is that the doctors will say, well, you want a painkiller? Panadol, for example.
Yeah.
You go there and ask for Panadol, there's no Panadol. But there are other painkillers,
Yeah.
right? It's a bit tricky of them sometimes how they do this.
Yeah.
So what we do is that we go and check and make sure that there is no medicine, make sure that that particular medicine is not there, there's no generic equivalent, everything. Then we will contact the head office
Yeah.
or the Department of Health and find out why that is not there. So, we do try and spread word around. In fact, when I was coming into the country, the immigration officer asked me what I do. And
Yeah.
I told him I'm a legislator. And, he was clicking his computer. And he's like, so do you also work in a church? I said, no, I don't work in a church. He clicked, like, are you a pastor? No, I'm not a pastor. Then I realized he's Googling my name.
Okay.
Whatever came up there
Was
was
a
me
pastor.
talking
Yeah.
in a church,
In
because
a
that
church.
almost every Sunday I'm in a church telling them,
Oh wow.
by the way, if you go to hospital and you don't find this medicine, please tell me, I will pick it up.
So you're figuring civic education during church service.
Oh, we have no. There's no way you're going to go to church and you're not asked to say hi to the congregation.
Got it.
Wow.
You're given 2 minutes. By the way, Mheshimiwa, 2 minutes, tuambie. Can you say hospitali kwaje? They're the ones who ask you, by the way.
I think that's a very different philosophy from how we Muslims.
I know
work.
you would never do that.
Yeah,
but
that will never happen.
and
in
I'll
a-
tell you this.
Yeah, that will never
If-
happen in a mosque.
Of course, it would. I truly understand and appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
do you know, for me, I can't remember the last time I went to church in my constituency just to worship and I didn't get to say anything. They will
Yeah.
expect some kind of update
Yeah.
on, why is our road at,
Yeah.
our ECD school. Just 2 minutes, tell us.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying is, it is an opportunity to reach out to my constituents and tell them, by the way, help me out, help you. Right?
Okay.
I have done this much. If you go there and you still find there's an issue, please tell me. I have a book there. I have my employees. I tell them, look, just
Okay.
go in and give me feedback on this.
All right, let's read a few comments here that have been coming, while we're having this conversation. I can see Stephen JJ saying, can you refute the claims by the COB about the amount of money used for trips? Na hakuna ROI, bado tuko nyuma. It's almost like the benchmarking was used for private enterprises. I think Stephen JJ might be referring to a certain report by the Control of Budget.
Yes.
So maybe Stephen JJ, give us a few more details on that. And then Akinyi Adoyo says, thank you for this conversation, much needed insights. And Stephen JJ anasema hapo kwa hiyo role ya MCA, hata mimi nimeshangaa leo. I thought hiyo oversight ni role ya ma senators. And then Washeke says, I'm still not convinced that this wouldn't have been done on Zoom or Microsoft Teams Corporations have cut down on business travel, especially after they discovered a lot can be accomplished virtually. Why aren't governments adopting this? And I'm sorry, me, I'm in the same school of thought as Washeke on this one, but story for another day. Pablo says, to be fair, media hypes issues a lot. Not sure why they would focus a lot on a delegation amount and miss on the point why the delegation traveled. Okay, then good point, Pablo. And then let me see. Stephen JJ says Gikomba, I think he was referring to
that
the market. Yeah, and then Pablo says the problem with Kenya is there is no separation between politics and governance. Every government comes in with its ideas in total disregard of systems already in place, and that's why there are pending bills, misdirection of project funds. For example, why would everyone who comes in want to build hospitals, roads, while those were the same issues addressed by a previous regime? I mean, I think this is a very big issue that Pablo is talking about, and this has to do, and this is why, despite the fact that there's a lot of corruption here in the US, because America is one of the biggest perpetrators of corruption in different things. But the reason why,
theirs is very white collar.
But the reason why things work is because I think the civil service, mainly the civil service, is separated from the political service. In Kenya, they're kind of mixed. When a new politician comes in, anataka kuweka ambassadors wake, anataka kuweka everything, so in Kenya, like, the civil service and the political services are tied together. In fact, elections are very jittery because even experienced civil servants are there, are not sure what's going to happen to them.
But Ali, but they don't. Yeah. Like when Trump came in, he brought his own people.
So Trump,
when
remember this,
when Obama
Trump,
brought in his own people, Biden brought his own people.
So they bring in their own people. They might change the leadership, but the core people who are the ones who are doing the work. So let's say, like, for example, like the Department of Homeland Security, they're definitely, cabinet secretaries are definitely going to change. But we're talking about the people who push the cogs, and that's an issue.
Or the PSs and the guys, the admins or whatever.
Even the PSs change.
Those don't change.
Even PSs change in Kenya.
Okay.
PSs change in Kenya. So the people who don't necessarily change is, for example, like the directors, what about control bodies, kama CDC, like those ones, like the career people, the people who are career, they're there, whether you're Republican or Democrat or whatever, because that's public record in the US. It's known, so that doesn't change. And we haven't figured out, like a perfect balance, because you will see especially in the counties, those are the most notorious places. You'll see like a whole group of people go and a whole bunch of new people being brought, even back at drivers. Even drivers, like everybody wants to come with their own new drivers and their own new sets of people. So I think this is, so that's very problematic. Anyway, comments again. Stephen JJ says, too much competition for limited resources, yet the country is ripe for opening up. And then Stephen JJ, hatukuli barabara mentality. Washeke, let me see, Washeke says, that means you need to build trust with the citizens. Yeah, and that the issue is mistrust. And then Stephen says, ndio hiyo, communication hakuna, Facebook haifiki mashinani. Pablo says the best place for heshimiwa to get free crowds in Kenya ni pale kanisani. And then Afro-Jamaican, we have a Jamaican who's tuned in here who loves Kenyan, says very informative. Maybe Afro-Jamaican, you can tell us a bit about Jamaica if you guys experience these same issues in Jamaica. And then Washeke says there's never a continuance of projects or policy, and this is a huge issue. There is a lot of wastage of funds tied to this. And I think the day when we figure this out in Kenya, continuation of policy, governance, and certain things above, like they continue above the politics. I think that's where we're going to be going to places.
I want to address Washeke because she's raised a few very pertinent issues. But I think she's forgotten what I said. I said, for us to have gotten to this point, we have done numerous Zoom meetings elsewhere, and we have engaged with other counties, we've engaged with so many other bodies, and we've gotten a wealth of experience. So what we are saying, unless her argument and people's argument is cut everything altogether, then we can say, and we can have a discussion on whether that is possible, on whether that's good or not. But reducing to something like 60-70% of your trips and saving that money and taking to development, I think that's a good thing. Yeah. But I also want to address another issue. She talked about wastage of and continuity of projects.
Yeah.
One thing we are pushing our governor to do is to make sure that projects which were started by the previous regime are completed. And I've given you one that we're doing in the hospital in my ward, which is a funeral home that was started by, I think, the Kavogo regime, and it was just left there. That hospital, that funeral home, as we speak, has been taken up by the new governor. It's been complete, and it's something we are telling the executive, look, if there's a market which was started somewhere and it's halfway, prioritize it, finish it.
Okay.
Whether it's part of your mandate or manifesto or not, make sure that's something you do for the people.
Okay. Yeah. I want to remind the listeners here that you're tuned into the One Mic Show, and I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. We are talking to Honorable Joe Kigara, Minority Leader, Kiambu County Assembly, and MCA Nyenda Ward on a Jubilee ticket. He's currently in the U.S. on a benchmarking trip. Yes, we will say that again. He's in the U.S. on a benchmarking trip.
He has denied. And there's
no
bench. There's no bench he's marking.
Yeah, and he will shortly be giving us details on how he survived the UDA Hustla narratives.
Right.
Our lines are open, and the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak, and feel free to call in. Now, later on the show, we'll talk about what the average Kenyan politician thinks of the diaspora in the US. So I want you to stay tuned for that. And Stephen JJ here panasema this is very informative, so that's a good thing when people are getting information.
Yes.
Yeah, but we want to take a little bit of a shift right now and go into party politics. And of course, Joe, you're one of those rare species that survived.
Very rare.
Yeah, very rare that survived the Hasura narrative in Mount Kenya, which swept like a thunderclap.
Get it right.
Yeah.
Hasura.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it swept across Mount Kenya like a thunderclap, and you won your county assembly seat on a fast-fading Jubilee party in a UDA stronghold. Please tell us what kept you outside picking the easy option and popular option of UDA, or what was not appealing about the Hustla narrative that made you stick with the good old Jubilee party.
Right. First of all, as you'll have noticed, I'm not one to do the simple things. I'm here in your show to begin with, which I know will get a lot of stick because, like, how dare you go and talk about
and reveal our secrets.
Benchmarking.
Yeah. And you are sent to do one job and one job only.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are one guy.
And on top of that, receive all these arrows.
Yes.
So how did you enter from Philadelphia ukaenda DC alafu ukaenda kwa show na ukaingia kwa show na wewe ni mtu mmoja na unafaa kufanya kazi moja?
And you revealed our secrets.
He probably rented a Porsche Cayenne. We start a rumor.
and apparently, as you guys are saying, I travel business class, so I don't know.
No, we were asking a question.
Anyway,
We were asking a question.
I heard it was first class.
Because me have met politicians in business class, and I wasn't even traveling business class. Me, I was
but
on my way.
you were passing through business class?
Me, I was passing through to go to a
And you left them there.
Alikuwa ameshaka.
Alikuwa shaka.
Wewe ulikuwa unaenda kule markiti.
Mimi nilikuwa naenda huko kwingine.
But as we have established today, there's very clear demarcation of the different types of politicians we have in Kenya.
Okay.
And the MCA is the person who gets a lot of queries and requests from people, but not a salary to match, right? Okay. Now, for me, I've never been one, and to answer your question, to do the easy thing.
Okay.
I didn't get to feel the narrative of bottom up.
Bottom up?
Yes.
Bottom up. How did you miss out on that?
First of all, you know,
you remember Musalia Mudavadi talking about the bottle, then he said the bottle. Hold on.
Yes, exactly.
Let me show guys. Hold on. When Musalia did this is the bottle.
Yes.
Then it is out.
Yes.
Remember that press conference?
I remember
what is his role? What is his role right now?
I mean, right now
he's the
principal cabinet secretary.
He's the one who's flipping the bottle.
And his wife has her own office with a budget.
Office of the, First Lady Prime Cabinet Secretary.
With a budget.
It's a long title.
With a budget. Nanyi MCAs have a budget.
Okay.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. But tell us, like how, because at that time, I mean, of course, like us guys, we're looking from outside. We were on the other side of the Hustla narrative.
Yeah.
We never saw it. But you were in the thick of it. You were pale katikati.
Yeah.
Where everybody was wearing yellow attire.
Yes.
How did you miss out on that? Or
I think
what was not appealing about that narrative?
Well, first of all,
at the time,
everybody who eventually went onto the Hustler narrative was originally from Jubilee, right? So it was people jumping one by one.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's not what I didn't like so much as staying put, because I didn't see at the time a reason to move. So I had to go and tell my constituents when I was campaigning that, first of all, just listen to me first before you look at the party.
Yeah.
And if you feel that's okay, we move.
Yeah.
If not, then let it be. But and numerous occasions people urged me to jump ship. And I lost many friends, by the way. It's like, hey, my friend, if you're not...
So are they your friends now that will in
Oh,
your
yeah,
office?
very much so.
Now
they came back.
That now kuna per diem na ROI inaweza ingia.
How you are party? Party na ROI. But yes, I never and I think that's one thing. They couldn't understand why. In fact, I remember when we were handing over our documentation for nomination, where you have to bring your party signed certificate so that IEBC can receive it. Most people still believed at the very last minute I'll go with UDA.
Yeah.
I think at the time we had maybe about 10 aspirants in for my seat at the time. When word caught on that I'm not moving from Jubilee to UDA, that number tripled to 30.
Because now they knew they had a chance without
Now
you
they
on the
knew they
unit.
had a
wako ndani.
Yes.
Kama
So you are the clear front runner.
I think I was from the
Okay.
very beginning. So
Okay.
everybody thought, no, if he's Jubilee, he doesn't see it,
Yeah.
we have a shot.
Yeah.
But I stuck there and I sold the narrative as strongly as I could that it's about the individual and not the party. That's number one. Number two,
Okay.
I wasn't a fan of pitting the haves and the have-nots. Like, Kenya is a capitalist country, you have to remember.
Yeah.
So when you decide you're going to bash the people who are who create jobs and call them dynasties, dynasty at the time was being targeted to a specific few people, right? I think we know who they are. Like dynasties, niao wako hapo.
Yeah.
But if you go into the village and you have your farm, you have your pickup, you have your employees
Yeah.
who walk home,
Yeah.
but you have your car and your truck.
You're a dynasty.
You're a dynasty.
Wow.
Now, that was an issue for me because, hang on, this is not it. In fact, I'm struggling just like anybody else to pay salaries. I'm struggling to keep my farm moving. How is it that I've become dynasty? So that was a narrative which was not sitting well with me. And so I told my people, look, if that's a deal breaker, so be it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here with the village with you. But I'm not changing because even when, God willing, you give me the seat, I'm still not going to change. I'm still going to stick by the policies that I believe in, and I'll speak up. Mimi siuzi wangu woga. So I'll still, be your mtetezi as far as issues are concerned.
Yeah.
And I've stood by that. And what happens in 2027, God knows. But I don't think I'll change even beyond that.
Okay.
So what made you take the leap of faith from whatever you were doing before to do this? Or should I ask, what were you doing that made you take the leap of faith?
So first of all, in 2017 I ran.
Okay.
For the same seat. I didn't get the seat at nomination.
Okay.
I was very heavily...
Still on a Jubilee ticket.
On a Jubilee ticket. In fact, I was very heavily involved in the presidential campaigns at the time. Even when I didn't get it, remember there was this rerun, and we were really campaigning heavily for the Uhuru campaign. I believed in Uhuru.
And Ruto.
And Ruto at the time as one unit.
Okay.
By the way, Uhuru comes from my constituency, my ward.
Okay.
Watu wa Gatudo.
Yeah, in fact, the Philadelphia
Oh,
president.
Gatodo. Where?
Yes,
Omosh.
he is my neighbor.
Gatodo.
No, no,
Yes.
Gatodo. Omosh, say Gatodo.
Not
Not Gat.
So if
Gatodo.
so if Uhuru is your neighbor, that makes you a dynasty.
But he is. He just said he has a pickup, he has a truck, he has employees, and he has a farm.
I said
Oh, you
he
have a
has-
farm.
He has a
I have a
farm,
farm and a pickup.
he has a farm,
employees.
a
I have
pickup,
employees. Yes.
So
truck.
you are one of those who was labeled as a dynasty.
I don't think I was
Yes.
labeled a dynasty because I was always with the people. That's one thing I can tell you.
Okay.
It was
tunakaa chini,
insinuated.
tunakunywa chai.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think I was ever labeled a dynasty. In fact, the issue of dynasty, if anything, we were sitting with them and thinking, who are these dynasties? I kept asking, who are they? Apart from Uhuru and Rao and those people. Who are these other dynasties are we complaining about? Because, you can't reverse the clock and now say, okay, now from now, Uhuru is not going to be. But who else do you have a problem with when you're talking about dynasty? And that answer was always very vague.
Okay.
The issue is people were, at the time, tired with this marriage of Jubilee and ODM. That's all.
Okay.
It was not a palatable thing.
No.
We're
Let us
done with
let us agree on one thing. I think personally was that the handshake was used to now, for lack of a better word, to demonize. And the fact that Rao shook hands for the sake of peace, the vision was here instead of seeing the long game. So I think people used that and said, you know what, what wawili ni mahasla, ni madynasty, wametoka sijui what. Mimi nimeuza kuku, nimeanza kuuza kuku nikiwa mchanga. Hao wengine ni and that narrative stuck.
Okay.
It was sold very well.
Yeah.
It was sold very well.
Well, if he said enough times,
Yeah,
it
it's
sounds
stuck.
like it's true.
It's
But
stuck.
in itself, it wasn't enough to bring this crashing wave. Why? Because
But
the
it
like
wasn't.
of us
Yeah.
who went and got a nominee certificate from Jubilee.
Yes.
Remember, that certificate was tantamount, it was representing Azimio,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Blue.
Mhm.
As we are a red dove and everything. Soon as you get that Jubilee thing, you become Azimio. Azimio is Raila.
Yeah.
So you go back to the ground and people ask you, so at what point are we talking ODM here? Surely. Because that's it. You see Azimio, you see, and there was no conversation. Mount Kenya people weren't asked about this marriage. It was a forced marriage as the narrative goes. So that was a very, and so this thing of dynasties and a forced marriage.
Let me ask another simple question. When there was a marriage back in the previous election with Ruto
Yes.
in 2013, were people in Mashinani asked, or was this also just
Yeah.
announced?
Presented.
That was consensual.
They agreed to sleep together.
That was a marriage of two people coming together, communities, and saying, look, what do you think? And you remember.
So, okay. This is where this is where I think Mount Kenya,
Yes.
and here I'm going to talk to Mount Kenya
Yeah.
because we're talking
Please
politics right now. I think this is where I think Mount Kenya has a fundamental issue that maybe they do not want to acknowledge, because I really do not see a major difference between how the marriage between Raila and Uhuru happened, and the marriage between Uhuru and Ruto happened in 2000. And the reason why I say this is because us over here, we are people who follow, like this politics, also play by play. And I'll tell you, before Ruto got into that marriage with Uhuru, there was talks about him, going back to Raila and everything. So it was a similar surprise.
Yes.
It was a similar surprise to of course there was the ICC looming
Yes.
at that particular time.
That was
Yes.
But even with ICC looming, these two political sides had not necessarily, like even like talking from the ground perspective, like you are not seeing, like Kikuyus and Kalenjins, like whining and dining together.
No, absolutely not.
It wasn't happening. So that's why I'm saying, like these two events, very similar, but there was so much with this first one. We're like, okay, the leaders have said this, what hatukubali too. But then in this other one, it was kind of like something sacrilegious. Like how dare you tell us that a Luo is gonna become a president?
Let me chime in. The issue was at that point in time.
Yes.
With the post-election violence, the narrative that was circulating was that it would not have happened if Raila had said, no Raila, no peace. That is one. Two.
If Raila had said,
if the demonstration said no Raila, no peace.
Okay.
Yeah. Had not.
Huh?
The demonstrations had not said.
If the demonstrators or the chant, no Raila, no peace or whatever.
When was that? Was 2007.
That was post-election.
That was post-election.
Because he went back.
No.
He went back.
I'm going back.
He's coming back.
I'm going back.
Yeah.
So with whatever happened, and don't forget, at that point in time, Ruto was in Raila's camp.
Yes.
At that point in time.
Yes, absolutely.
There has been a lot of brouhaha and skirmishes or whatever between the Kalenjins and the Kikuyus. We know that from the Molo land clashes.
There
or
was
whatever.
death.
There was death.
Yeah.
Prior to that, 92, 97, that was going on.
Yeah.
So when post-election happened, the fact that Raila was the one in front of everything, he was the guy bearing the ticket, and whatever happened was happening to Kikuyus in Rift Valley. That happening to Kikuyus was equated to Raila. Ruto was not, in some pockets, people understand Ruto was behind it. He was the whatever.
He was the man on the ground.
That is according to other pockets.
Yeah.
Okay. From what when you talk to people, when you talk to Wazes, when you talk to some guys who seem to be in the know. When now it comes when there's that famous speech of Uhuru in a car addressing guys, telling guys, calm down. Let's wait and see what's going to happen. Whatever has happened, they're going to guy KK, what this, that, the other. And then you fast forward, you find the career now ICC has been calm. No, what was it? No Hague. What was it? What was the chant?
Don't be vague.
Don't be vague. Let's go to Hague, whatever.
Yeah.
And the guy who was championing that was Raila. Was Rao. When the list comes out, who are in there?
Ruto.
Ruto, among other guys, career, whatever. That marriage was a marriage of convenience. When Raila, when Ruto and UK joined, most people, some Kikuyus, when you talk to them, some of those Wazes, they say the fact that there's some people who there's some Kikuyus who just don't like Kalenjins at all. They just don't. And
there's animosity.
There's animosity
based on killings and a lot of things that have happened historically. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And
they live next to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they just don't, whatever. The misunderstanding or the hatred or whatever between Kikuyus and Luos, like when you look at it, there really isn't anything that you can say that these two communities, they can say that selling alinyanganya dem, ama this person took land.
It's all political.
So the marriage between these two was of convenience.
Yeah.
And the narrative was sold that say alifanya watu wetu wafanya nini? Liwe huko Rift Valley.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes around, when this guy, who at that point was the people appointed him, they are saying, "Oh, Nimodowito, this is our king," comes and tells you, "Guys, listen, I'm telling you, Nyita imodeo baru, shikilia huyu mzee. Huyu hapa najua ni kubaya. Unaona vile UK alicharazwa.
But you see, what you're saying does not necessarily conflict what I was saying earlier.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't conflict.
Yeah.
What I said, it was
consensual.
convenient.
Yeah.
Convenience, but it was also consensual. Why? The Uhuru Ruto union was such that Uhuru himself it was not a do or die for him. Remember there was a time he had Mashetani. Remember the Mashetani?
Yeah.
Right?
Madimon
He's
is
like,
Madimon.
Even Madividi can take this thing.
Yeah.
You know, and the community told him, my friend, it's not for you to make that decision. We
Yes.
are making the decision for you. You vie, you go and shikana with Ruto, we are behind you. And that was that. This one, and that's what I'm saying, it's a combination of many
so
things.
when you say the community, okay, and this is where sometimes I feel like there's, like the way, for example, some communities here in the US have struggled to deal with certain things. When you say the community, who is the community? Are you saying a couple of people who sat in a meeting? Who's the community?
So the way elections happen in Kenya are in form of regional caucuses, right? You have a caucus for Mount Kenya, a caucus for Eastern.
But when you say the community sat and decided, now who's is it a bunch of like 10 people who are considered the community?
No.
Is it
there's structures of a party, right? So take political party, for instance.
Yeah.
You have the party head, who was Uhuru himself at the time. He still is even now. Then you have county leadership and everyone else, and so they have the pulse on the ground. What's the ground saying?
Okay,
this is
enough.
what we prefer. Okay, and so all the way from the bottom of the party structures to the leadership, or like we prefer if you go this way because we have a better chance. Remember, it's all just getting into power. Whether, as one Mike is saying here, is those historical issues that we'll deal with later. Now, fast forward now to your question of 2022. The party, on top of all these things which were going on, the Azimio campaign machine was very different in information to the Kenya Kwanza. And one thing which was very glaring is who was pushing the narrative. If you look at Ruto when he went to campaign, everybody who was with him in the trucks or whatever were people who themselves were vying. Either a UDA governor aspirant, senator aspirant, MP aspirant, and everybody who was campaigning was, everybody had a stake. If you take Rao, you had Atwoli, you had Morathe, you had Peter Kenneth. These people had no stake. They're the ones pushing the agenda for how do we then really get to understand what Raila is good for as far as Mount Kenya is concerned. So there was a major disconnect. Already on a first issue, the people pushing the narrative are not even people we can identify with. It's not like we had people, MPs who are with him through and through.
People on the ground.
There were no people on the ground. And so there was a major disconnect. So now when you, so now for me, as MCA running on a Jubilee ticket, stroke Azimio, I was like, my friend, have you lost it? So it was, and I really appreciate, and I'm forever thankful for the people of my ward, Ngenda ward, that they actually listened to what I was saying. Like, okay, fine, we'll give you a chance. It's risky, but we'll give you a chance as long as you continue being as brave when it comes to articulating issues, matters county.
Okay, I mean that's that's fair enough, but I'll also give Mount Kenya credit for, despite everything, I think Rao might have gotten between maybe 25 to 30%. I don't know. I can't remember the exact number.
It was about 21 to 25. It wasn't, but
Yeah.
it was way more. It was over a million votes.
It was very significant.
Yes, very significant
compared to previous elections.
Yes, 100%.
That he had that he had participated in.
And it's not like even Ruto won with much. 233,000.
Yeah. So
it wasn't a wave. It wasn't at the Jamaa ati chapad a landslide
It was a landslide in Mount Kenya.
Aliponea chupu.
Yeah, it was a landslide in Mount Kenya region, but if you're
Landslide
talking
for
Baba getting to 20 something percent,
That's not a landslide.
No, let me tell you,
Yeah.
not the votes.
Yeah.
Remember, winning election is about governance also.
Yeah.
So you will win elections, yes, but you will also need to win members of parliament
Oh,
so
yeah.
that you can govern.
Yeah, fair enough.
In Kiambu,
Yeah,
out of 12 sub-counties, constituencies,
yeah.
Ruto got 11
Oh,
and one
yes.
independent. Now, if that's not a whitewash, I don't. And I've told you now, out of 60,
Okay, when you put it that.
60 MCAs
Yeah, that's
elected
fair enough.
wards.
Yeah.
Okay, there's some Tujibebe party people, but they got majority of it. I mean, minority party in my assembly, we are 5.
But the sad thing that, like when, I followed Mount Kenya politics for a very long time. I mean, of course, I'm not familiar with MCAs, but like I followed with members of parliament. And over time, and I'm not saying this in any bad way, but over time, when you remember the giants Mount Kenya used to have, that has degraded over time, like in terms of quality.
Of politicians.
Yeah, quality of politicians and quality of leaders that the regions produce.
Yeah.
Remember like counties like Muranga, they used to produce giants. Like when you think of Njindo Matiba, when you think of Mishuki, when you think of there's an older guy that were the likes of Kinakiano, they were giants. Like those were giants by any standard.
Karume Jenga.
But then when you look at and maybe I don't know whether there's something that I'm missing, but the quality over time, it has really, really degraded. And I think with this, with what happened with the UDA wave, and I know Pablo is still on that wave, but what happened with this UDA wave is that I feel like the people who, I don't know, the brains were pushed aside, and the people who wanted to push politics came to the forefront.
Yeah.
And I think this is maybe not, I don't know, maybe someone from the ground might see this differently, but I think this is not serving the people down there well.
I think definitely the crop of leadership has changed. I know I'm in a glass house, I can't throw stones, but we definitely have very different crop of people in legislative, both national and county government, because you'll ask many people, you'll ask even many members of parliament, they'll tell you they didn't even they themselves didn't see the wave coming, because when polls were done, I wouldn't mention them, but polls were done, there's a member of parliament who was consistently 3rd to 4th. Independent polls, we did our own polls, so at no point were we even thinking that's a possibility. Elections come and he's top, all of them. So this is the strength and the depth of what people harbor themselves. Once they make a decision, Mount Kenya people, once they make a decision, they'll sit with it, it will marinate in them, and they'll just wait. So I think this is the time, such decisions are being made. People are looking at how this bottoms-up narrative is going to weather the storm.
Is it working well on the ground, bottoms up?
I think the jury is still out on that, if you ask me.
Let me read a few comments over here, because they're coming in thick and fast. As you marinate, as you marinate on your response. And by the way, Stephen JJ, Pablo, I have a response for you. But what did you watch here? Achuna Pacho says face-to-face meeting helps with the process of sealing a deal, and I guess that goes to address part of the return on investment and his visibility,
especially the commerce part.
William Wambiro says, we appreciate your honesty, especially when many politicians shy away from such opportunities for fear of facing questions. Your willingness to engage openly with the community not only demonstrates your commitment to transparency, but also highlights your dedication to fostering open dialogue and accountability. It's leaders like you willing to step into challenging spaces and speak up, who inspire and bring about real change. Thank you for setting a commendable example and for your readiness to connect with and address the concerns of your constituents. Achuna Pacho says, Joe, you said you're a farmer. Can I sell you soil fortifying organic fertilizer from the US?
Aye. What exactly is soil fortifying organic? Clearly, I'm not a farmer.
Where,
Mwende na Kemri,
Yeah.
or who the Department of Agriculture, and yeah.
Ama they can
Oh,
sell you
that's Achuna.
Soil fortifying organic fertilizer. Why don't you just say
it-
fertilizer?
No. He
It's
has
not just normal.
no, it's not normal fertilizer that
It's
pH
soil
need-
fortifying.
Yes,
Yes.
it
fortifies the
fortifies
soil organically.
yes, because unajua kuna ile pH pia
Yeah.
unafaa kuangalia.
Yeah.
20
It
to
sounds like
1,
those
10
adverts
to
you have
1,
in the States.
14 to 8, you know, kuna hizo ma ratios.
Yes.
or call Jonathan Mweke.
Wacha mimi baki na uvuvi.
Pablo says, Ali Badawi, it is President Ruto. Baba is headed to AU. It's all good now to refer to President Ruto as president. Umeambiwa hivyo.
Yeah, okay, and people are so excited
tribalism
on the
too.
ground too.
Please.
Yeah.
Same way kuna mtu alipigwa swearing usiku. One mic. President Ruto won. Elections are won by margins too. A landslide would have been better pia. Reference Bush versus Gore. Manchester United walichapa 7-0 na Liverpool but walishinda.
Yes. And still 3 points.
Still 3. Na walichapwa na Fulham 2-1.
Na bado 3 points.
Na bado ni 3 points to Fulham.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're telling me.
A win is a win.
Dors Mwangi.
Yeah.
Dors.
Dors.
Is it
Yeah.
Dors?
Doors.
Hey,
Yeah.
I Mr. Bird.
Yeah.
Hey, Bird, Google Bird. Dors. Oh, sorry. Alias corrected me. Dors.
Yes.
Mawangai. Considering that MCAs are closely connected to the community and understand its needs, do you believe there is a better way to empower MCAs with a budget to address these needs directly? Yeah, I think. But Stephen JJ says, but we've just been grey-listed.
Yeah.
And Washeke says, Omosh Fire, please pin number for anyone who wants to call. 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Kanada juga na Gikuyu.
I was going to say in another language, but it's okay.
Tuiseme kwa Kiswahili.
Tafadhali.
202 683 4570 *5.
Tena. Ama with the Luo. Please tell us in the Luo, Omera. What is?
That
202.
That's why they say it's a lifestyle. It's not
It's a
lifestyle.
in fact, even just the area code, that's enough.
202.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
like a full number.
Hizo zingine utajijazia.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on.
So hii question ya Dors Mwangi. Considering that MCAs are closely connected with the community and understand its needs, do you believe there's a better way to empower MCAs with a budget to address these needs directly? I think I know your answer, but I'll let you give it.
Even before I answer that, let me just tell you, you're aware we have a commission for dialogue, which presented its findings to Parliament. And
the one that's headed by Kalonzo.
the one that's headed by Kalonzo
Okay.
and the leader of majority, Kimani Ichung'wah, on the other side.
Okay.
Now, they have presented a plethora of issues to Parliament, amongst those funding for elected officials. In fact, one of the key issues that needs to be addressed is enshrining CDF into the Constitution, because as it is at the moment, it's not. Now, by doing that, the idea is we might as well put the Senators Fund, because they also want one there, the Women Fund,
Rep.
and the Ward Fund in that as well. Now, the vibe on the ground is they're not very keen in having the Ward Fund for reasons known to themselves. But we're waiting to see how they're going to debate that.
Okay.
But if they're going to enshrine CDF into the Constitution, then we have to have a Ward Fund put in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll tell you my philosophical issue with legislators being given money directly.
Yeah.
And that's with CDF, and now we're talking about money going to towards.
Yes.
Like for example, like going across Mombasa Malindi, which areas that I'm familiar with. You notice something, like there's this tendency, everybody wants to build a school with their name, Muhammad Ali Secondary School. And sometimes you look at an area, yes, here's the line, this is a different constituency. This school here can serve people across the line. But because of the way, like this issue has been politicized,
Yes.
so the guy on this other side also wants to build a school when there's already a school over here that's empty, that maybe needs to be more resourced.
Yes.
With teachers, like a library, books and stuff like that. So there's a lot of inefficiencies. And I like talking about cattle dips. I know they're not in use so much. They used to be notoriously on those GHC papers, like find where the cattle dip is on the map.
Yes.
Yeah. Or they have a cattle dip and then they ask you, what is the economic activity of the people in this area? Then you're supposed to know the real livestock because there's a cattle dip. But you see, there's a lot of...
Looks like you are traumatized.
There's a lot of there's a lot of these cattle dips. These cattle dip projects, like which may benefit, like a number of people, but when you look at the overall community, there tends to be a lot of wastage when projects are done in this way. And this is at constituency level. Constituencies are much bigger units. Now, when you go to ward levels, when now you start thinking of a ward is a very small unit, especially in populous areas like Nairobi. They're very small units. So you'll find that, you'll start finding these small projects where it could have been more efficient to have one big project for these 3 wards. But things cannot work that way anymore. And then for the very critical tasks, like we're talking about health and education, I personally feel like right now it's been given to the hands of members of parliament. I feel like that's very dangerous. And I think if it goes further down to members of county assembly, I think it's even going to become more potent.
I disagree for this reason.
Yes.
Politics is local. So when your constituents come and ask you for some form of development, they don't want you to go and lobby for it. They're telling you, my friend, we need this road done. How you get it done is up to you. But we are not going to anybody else. I've had a case, and it's an ongoing case in my ward, where there's a very unkept road. It's dilapidated. It's a national road as far as demarcation of it is concerned. It's not been done for years. Right now it's raining. It's impassable. It's a nightmare. And people are like, look, Joe, you need to fix this road for us. And there's no narrative I can tell them that it's not my road. It's not a county road. Like,
it's national. So which means the money should come from the national government.
Yes.
Or if it's office of president or whatever,
yes,
roads wakujua nini.
Remember I told you this body is called Kigara.
Yes, right? Yes.
They're the ones who are supposed to fix it. Kigara says we don't have money because it has not been budgeted for by the national government. Yes. So the MP cannot, or the MP is trying to lobby for it so that it gets done. We had the president come to my constituency the other day and he said he will do it. Now, we have to wait for it to be done. Meanwhile,
and that's the one that goes back to office of the president, right?
No,
under the
president can lobby or can help push for the relevant departments, Kigara, to get some money, whether it's this budget or it's another budget. Now the issue is, and this is where I'm coming to it, if the constituents are asking me to do a road and I don't have money, like, okay, fine, tutakungojea 2027. So they don't want a narrative of it's not my road. So what happens is, at least it's a compromise. So you have to make a deal with the devil, even though you know it's not entirely your mandate. Like, okay, give me a kitty to address the most urgent and critical things. We're not looking for 100 million for a ward fund. By the way, we have something called a revenue allocation bill in Kiambu we just passed, which is 10 million per ward. That 10 million is not money that comes to my office somewhere. It's 10 million, which is still at the executive branch. We get to decide
certain words,
where it goes.
Which we get to decide what projects it does.
And I like that. I actually like that very much.
Exactly.
So it's still being held by the executive, but then
now the issue, it's good, fantastic. Sit at the executive. The issue is implementation.
Yeah.
Remember, it's still in your money, but You still have to go and remind the CEC or the head of departments for roads. By the way, I have 2 million and I need you to do that road. So there's still some form of pushing and lobbying and cajoling and everything.
Yeah, but I think my philosophical problem comes with experience of what has happened over time when these tasks have been, like taken down.
Yeah.
So what happens is, for example, like when bursaries, for example, they were moved from the national government, which was the Ministry of Education, to members of parliament. Like there's constantly at the beginning of every term, you always see that there's always constant complaints. But forget about that. Let's talk about public schools. When us guys were in primary school, compare the public schools that we had then and compare the public schools that we have now. Because what tends to happen is that when this responsibility is given to someone else, that gives an opportunity for the national government to get away from its responsibilities. And it's been doing that very systematically in a way that they don't even get the blame, because now you're leaving, like infrastructure issues on education to counties when the national government is the one that's supposed to be responsible, like for national education, primary, secondary school. But now because this thing has been happening trickle over time, so the national government, the Ministry of Education, has neglected responsibility, but because they are far off in Nairobi, they will keep the money, but they will not get the blame.
True.
But at the end of the day, the students on the ground are gonna gradually keep getting poorer and poorer and poorer quality over time. That's what's happened to healthcare too.
Yes.
They've been holding the bag, getting like a very small portion of the blame, and slowly the quality over here, yes, people are having opportunities to build like structures with their names on them, but when you look at the overall quality over time, things are like getting slowly worse over time.
Yes.
And that's the reason why like politically it's prudent, because people are asking you, take care of this pothole, take care of this, take care of that. So politically it's prudent, but when you look at the long term, when you have an MCA, rather than legislating and oversighting, they're now focusing more energy on fixing potholes and doing a lot of other things. What happens is that now the executive starts becoming, it starts becoming very powerful, and they start getting powers that they're not supposed to have, which is what's happened with the national government. Because all these MPs are focused on building, like toilets and cattle dips and so many other small projects here and there, our parliament is totally captured. I don't think it's even debatable anymore. It's totally captured. Whatever the president wants, whether it's a levy, whether it's whatever he wants, yes, there'll be some debates there, like for sure and everything, but he will get what he wants. And eventually, so philosophically, this thing of giving, like all the people, like small monies, because now once that money goes there within the ward, there will be some other smaller units within the wards that will also say, on this ward, hii side ya huku, inaonekana wamepata more money, so si tunataka yetu ya hii side peke yake. And that becomes just very inefficient.
I agree with you. And the issue of bursaries, for example, is a major headache for us. Why? Because you have the governor who is mandated to give bursaries per sub-count, per ward, right? The member of parliament has his own bursary, right?
Yeah.
And they never run at the same time. So in April, he's doing his, as we are doing ours in January. The governor says, and it's okay, we'll do even extra bursaries this financial year. So every time we are doing bursaries, the MP is doing one or two. It's hectic. And we're giving the same people because they're the needy people. So if a village has one needy person, that person will remain needy. So they will need bursaries from the MP and from the county government.
To be able to make up their full...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the argument is, why don't you just put all this money back into national government? Let them, if it's a school you're doing, let them do the school. Don't charge the parents anything.
Yeah.
Let them just buy...
Build the school, let them go to the school.
Let them just buy uniform,
and
then they check in. Because that's originally what Kibaki wanted to do when he started free primary education. He just wanted kids to turn up to school and learn. That's what happened. But the issue of bursary is not going away. In the meantime, as legislators now, we have to fight for our kit. We have to fight for our money so that we can at least, even if you're going to change the narrative the way you are saying, it has to be gradual. Because come tomorrow, when I go back to the award, I'll still need to address issues which need funds. So I'll have to go to the governor's office. And it's not a very efficient system which is running. So either you give someone powers to do what they need to do, or remove everybody's powers. In fact, remove devolution if that's the case, right? Or then empower it. If devolution is supposed to be there, as was envisioned by the drafters of the Constitution, let funds follow as they're supposed to be. And I think it should work, and it will work.
Okay, fair enough. And I want to remind the listeners again that you're tuned into the One Mic Show. We're coming to a close now. I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi, and we're here talking to Joe Kigara, Minority Leader, Kiambu County Assembly, and MCA Nyenda Ward on a Jubilee ticket. He's currently in the U.S. on a benchmarking trip, and we're getting to that point where we're about to wrap up the show. Our lines, of course, are open 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. I think there was someone who wanted to call, and I see Pablo is saying, question to Honorable Kigara. What is your next step after being an MCA? I think he can make a good president, though apitie pale parliament kidogo. Kenya could benefit from his wisdom. We're going to talk about that now towards the end. Now, real quick, before we let you go, we've been talking a lot of Kenyan politics, Nanini. What about American politics? What are your thoughts on American politics and what's happening?
Do you know, I've
you're coming here to benchmark.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
Yes,
100%.
Yeah.
And I've had either Fox News and these other channels, MSNBC, at the background every time I'm in the hotel, just to hear this whole Trump situation. It is so fascinating. It's like these series.
Please don't be caught and swept up in the Kool-Aid, brother. But
No.
But you're coming to benchmark.
The soaps.
No,
Those Spanish soaps.
When I said
La Mujer.
those ones,
Yeah.
it sounds like that. What's the
It
next
doesn't
step?
sound real.
Can you imagine that we lived through that for four years?
Breaking news every minute. I had to turn
What
off
you
my
saw,
breaking news.
we lived through.
And I think you're going to get there again now, where now it's
I don't
the
think
same
so.
scenario.
I don't think so. But the problem is that the hype is so much that if the people on the other side or the current incumbent right now, as Pochunga, ujama yuko in kama Flint.
I don't see how you're going to weather the storm, the wave, because there's a wave coming.
Where's this wave?
You'll see it.
So it's kind of like the
way I see it,
UDA one.
Yes, because I've come to realize with the election sometimes there is a certain simmering
There's a certain pulse.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's just there waiting to just get an opportunity and come out.
Okay.
And I think the Trump movement is like that. It's not even as loud as they really want it to be right now. They're just concentrating on the trial and this and that. So when I went to Capitol Hill in Washington, the history of how things are done and where it came from, and even from the British coming and banning and these people saying they want to do this and that, to today, American politics is so interesting that the very people who elected Obama, a black president, are the very same people who elected Trump and could probably elect him again. It's mind-blowing. I'm really finding it fascinating.
Let me not, I'm not countering that, but let me say this. I think one thing that Trump had in 2016 is that he was an unknown. In 2016,
Unknown in terms of
he was not known.
He was not a politician.
He was not
as
a
a politician,
but he was known.
No, he was known,
No,
but
yeah.
not as a politician.
He was not a political anything.
No, he wasn't anything. Well,
But
politically, he wasn't.
Remember, he had started. He was part of that Batha movement.
Yeah,
which was
but that is insignificant in a sense because by then, But now 2016, when he's coming in, when he's coming down the escalator, you didn't know much about the guy, apart from him having the apprentice and having whatever.
knowing about his businesses. And
But
his
that's
real
it.
estate. Yeah.
That was it. Now, by now, people already know who he is. And that in itself might actually be the difference, because now he is known. You know who he is. You know his business practices. You know if it's moral. You know very well when it comes to women's reproductive health, Vile amefanya. He's very proud of putting up 3 Supreme Court justices who reversed Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
You know very well, it is evident, you know, he's going to use black people as tropes, but he's never been really confronted about the New York 5, who are never found. Like, you already know who you're dealing with.
Is that
In
a good thing or
2016,
a bad thing then?
now you know, because you know now. If I know Aliza is a con artist, you know, there's a guy we used to mess with until we found out he was a con artist, and we know where I'm going with this. Yes,
you pulled that out.
and I'm he
Now,
asked
don't
it.
point me. No, you pulled it. Don't point
No,
me.
there's a guy called Kainel.
Yeah.
Until we found out what he was,
Okay.
you're like, oh, that guy is a con man, straight up, through and through. So you know, if you're gonna deal with him, this is what you're going to get. You're gonna get conned.
Yeah.
You're gonna get scammed. You're gonna get skimmed.
As long as you
So
know
there are
before.
no, there are no surprises, is what you're saying.
there are no
surprises.
At this point.
No, there are no surprises at all. At all.
So you're either in with
Or
the
out.
non-surprise, or you're.
And you already know, and you can tell from what the Rithagli clans have been doing themselves. Akina Mitch McConnell, they know who he is. Akina Ted Cruz. In 2016, these are the same idiots who were on a campaign, who went on a rampage saying what type of pass. Akina Lindsey Graham, who is called a pilot fish.
But Udomike, I think you're also underestimating
No, what I'm
the
saying.
power.
No, let me
Yeah.
finish, please.
Okay, go ahead, bro. Okay, so
Okay, finish.
Let me
What-
not steal your thunder.
No. There's no thunder.
Yeah,
here.
you on a roll. You on a roll.
No, there's no role.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Like I'm butter? Carry on. Oh, sorry.
Who you
So-
Muslim? Who you Muslim?
Wait, watch out. So what I'm saying is this: you can't, you know, like the same guys who knew who he was
Yeah.
have been now kissing the ring.
Yeah.
I remember just recently we were having a discussion, and somebody pointed out that in this election, Democrats are gonna vote Democratic. Republicans, Trumpians are gonna vote Trump. Hapa katikati, independence. That is where
that's the difference.
Mbivu na mbichi.
Yeah.
When the rubber meets the road, it's
Yeah.
gonna be here. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
these two. Ha hagatakate. Hapa katikati.
Yeah.
How do you, how do you say county in the Luo?
Middle.
Hapa katikati.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. But what I was gonna say is, we've sometimes underestimated the power of an enemy of yours who has an enemy, like two people who don't like each other, but they have a common enemy. The blacks, immigrants, the Muslims, and these are tropes that Trump has become very good at. So he knows what, especially
He's giving black people sneakers.
especially
You
he's
might as
giving-
well add watermelon and fried chicken.
Yeah, and he was also saying that black people identify.
So what's he
with
gonna
him.
give the Muslims after he had told them that they were nini?
Muslims, you know, like that he cannot get back.
He
to
can
us
never
again.
come back.
Yeah, he can never come back.
Bas.
But with
Actually,
blacks,
I've been indicted.
but with blacks, yeah, he was saying blacks have identified with him because he's been indicted. So
Wow.
So he knows
Yes.
how to send. He knows how to send those tropes.
Those messages, those
Yeah.
sublime.
But here's the difference, though.
And
Oh,
these
sorry,
messages, they marinate very well on a certain category of white Americans. You know, like, oh, he's clearly showing that he dislikes, like the blacks, he dislikes the immigrants, he dislikes the Muslims, because those are the top 3 groups that for lack of a better word of saying it, a certain part of white America that would like to see extinguished, completely from this planet. And he's already signaled to them that I hate these guys. So those guys, their hatred for these groups is much more than any differences they may have had with Trump.
But
So they'll go. So they'll still vote for. They'll still vote for Trump.
But here's the thing,
So we
Lord.
can't underestimate the value.
No,
of
we
that.
can't value. But I'll
Yeah.
say this before you chime in. Here's the problem. Here's the difference between the blacks and Trump when it comes to indictment and however many charges, 4
Yeah.
indictments, 91 counts, whatever. Blacks get convicted with or without evidence.
Yes.
Say evidence equal.
Yeah. All over the
However,
place.
it's all over the place.
Everywhere.
And you have to see it, and I also wanted to say that there has been caution exercised, even by the special prosecutor, to make sure that you have your I's dotted and T's crossed. But that would not stop some of the justices or judges who Trump himself appointed, that were pushed through and rammed through by McConnell, who has just stepped down, but will run until 2027 if you'll survive, right? And you wait to see what, and again, you can say he can appeal to the blacks, that, oh, I've been indicted, I'm just like you. Oh, here's the difference. Blacks have been convicted. Even without being indicted.
Even without being indicted.
I think there's a guy from Canada who wants to say something, but I don't know.
My issue is
who's
this
jumping over there.
Sometimes, and this could be the same issue that Kenya faces in 2027. You're looking at Trump's do's and don'ts, what he's done in the past, what he's good at, and all these things, all the qualities of him as a person or as he did. And you forget, who is he running against, right? He's running against Biden. And people are saying, I'm a choker. You see, if you look at what might happen in Kenya, right? And this comes back to the things which are at play today with Raul. Once you have a weak or a non-existent opponent, that really paves way for you. And for me, I'm saying, okay, Trump has issues, but I don't see the same America that voted for him last time,
my friend,
being a different America.
So you consider Biden a weak opponent?
Nimesikia Fox News.
Okay, wait. So you're so this is based upon Fox News.
No. When I say Fox News, I mean news. I'm listening to the narrative of. Do you know?
This is the wrong people to listen to.
No.
I guess right for that.
Because we don't get Fox.
Let me just support.
I absolutely love hearing the other side of the coin, Fox. Because like in Kenya, we don't get Fox. There's some channels you can get. But it's primarily CNN, BBC, and those others. Al Jazeera. Or some channels you can get CNBC and those, right? They're very, very, very pro-democratic space, right? Every now and again, when you listen to this story, like I listen to these Fox guys, Kina Hannity are excessive, obviously. But you can't help but get one or two things against Biden. I'm thinking,
give me one. No, give me one. Please, name one.
No, it's it's okay.
Almost.
I think
it's okay. Because here's the thing. And one thing I've noticed about a lot of people from and we've had this experience before, even in the last election. I feel like there's a very big percentage of people who are in Kenya who are kind of attracted to that Trump persona. And it's my personal belief that if this election were taken to Kenya, we would be surprised. Would be surprised by how many people would vote for Trump. So sometimes, because there's some people, there's some open Trump supporters in Kenya, and I sometimes try, like you guys have noticed, I sometimes try to pick their brains to see, what exactly.
Where, bro?
No, I do that. No, but I sometimes try to pick their brain to see what motivates them.
I stopped trying to pick their brains. To love and even be attracted to this persona. I just sometimes are you serious?
No, I try to understand.
By the way, if you do that, you will hurt your brain. Really, there is nothing concrete that you find a person in Kenya or whatever stand and say, okay, I love Trump because ABCD. You will find a few, but usually it's this narrative of bravado and fighting and
he says it as it is.
Saying it as it is.
That one, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Hustla narrative.
It's an extreme of hustler. Just bulldozing.
And he's always on TV. He's in your face, and he keeps saying the same old crap. But it gets to the point where, if he says it enough times, it's true.
And it becomes entertaining even.
Yeah.
I mean, like, really, did he say that?
He's a reality star, so he deserves.
And here's the thing. And when it comes to black whatever, I've really gotten onto this bandwagon of listening to Roland Martin. And like daily, like, okay, I go to his live or he has posted or whatever, and the guy makes so much sense. He was being interviewed by Stephen A. Smith the other day, and I think the interesting thing is Democrats are always willing and ready to question Biden. Republicans are not even going to attempt to try and whatever.
And it's the same thing Democrats did with Obama.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fortunately,
Obama got the second term.
Yeah.
And I was telling somebody, what Democrats need to do, they need to stand with one voice. Put it this way. In injury time, forget the strategies that you had. You cannot be looking at your partner or your teammate or whatever and yelling at him like, yo, kadhe, fanya hivi, let's do this. Hapa ni injury time, tukae gangari. It doesn't matter what is going on. We stay focused. That's the enemy. We need to defeat these guys. Or if there's a lead, we need to hold it. It's that simple. But whenever they try to point something that, the Biden campaign, this or whatever, Roland is always quick to say, listen, let's look on this other side. If the more you focus on your side, you are actually falling for their narrative because their narrative is pointing at your side.
Yeah.
And you open yourself. And so as soon as you look away and start looking at yourself and whatever, that team has already won.
Yeah, I think Democrats sometimes tend to fall into that trap.
They always do.
And sometimes these traps are set by Republicans.
Very much so.
Like that guy is not very perfect. Look at what he did. And then they throw it. And then now you mnabaki mkipigana nyi wenyewe kwa wenyewe. This is what I'm going to say.
We have a call.
So before we go to the call, but this is what I'm quickly going to say. For Biden, and I know this is difficult, from people who are watching from outside to hear. For Biden, if it wasn't for Gaza, I think he was heading for a landslide. Because you have to be honest, on the economy.
Agreed.
On the economy, even this guy who is a Republican is called
Kudlow,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even that guy said it was conservative.
Bro, even Fox News.
Yeah, they said, I'm sorry,
Just Fox News.
This economic reports, he says, I know conservatives want to pick and dissect them, but this is one of the best that has been that they've seen in a very long time.
Right.
So to all credit, with all the issues we're having with Genocide Joe over what's happening in and not Joe the other one.
My issue is my issue is
with the Gaza thing.
The Gaza thing. That's why we still have this until today.
That is fine. Yeah. You can say genocide. My issue is with the butcher of Gaza, Benjamin Netanyahu.
But now you see
the butcher of Gaza.
But now you see the butcher of Gaza, Genocide Joe has the wallet. He could immediately cut that supply if he wanted to. So I think, to me, if it wasn't this one, it's not even a hiccup. This is a big wound.
No, it's not a hiccup. This is a Waterloo.
It's a very big wound. If it wasn't for this one thing, Genocide Joe was heading for a landslide. And I think even despite the fact that he might lose Michigan, to be fair, he still has a path to victory, even while losing Michigan, but it's definitely not going to be that easy.
0073. Thank you for calling the One Mic Show. 0073. Thank you for holding. Tafadhali, name and where you're calling from?
This is Washeke from the great state of Texas.
Texas. Washeke.
Were you at the border? Both candidates were there. Candidate Biden, candidate Trump. They were both at the border. Were you at any of those rallies, Washeke?
No, she said she was from the great.
Washeke. Of course, I was there to welcome Biden and tell Trump to go back to wherever he came from.
Okay. All right. Karibu sana, Washeke. Now talk to us. I know you want to talk to our member of county assembly who's here in the studio. You've been disagreeing with him. Talk to us, Washeke.
Or agreeing.
I think she's from Gatojo.
No, I'm not from Gatondo, but first thing I wanted to thank you, Honorable Kigara, for answering my tough questions. It wasn't anything personal. We're just trying to make him accountable. And thank you for being very comfortable in the hot seat. I think I have one question, and particularly about Kiambu. And my question is, what are the investment opportunities that are available for people like me? So how do you feel like we can contribute, especially when it comes to essential services like healthcare and education? I know a lot of this they still need support from the national government, county government, but what do us, like as private investors, what role can we play?
Mafuroti washeki, mafuroti.
Apart from diaspora remissions, that's diaspora people bring a lot of money back. But I think investment, irrespective of the departments like health, I think property is a big one. There's a lot of land prime for investment because Kiambu now is the place to be, even for people who work in Nairobi. If you're looking to get into the property market,
Mafuroti.
Yes, but as residential property, the affordable housing should be done by people like you, Washeka. It's not the government that should be doing it.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. Washeke, does that answer your question, or?
I think she wanted to be told there's a landfill that she can build, and then the county will pay her.
Washeke.
I have a follow-up to that. I have a follow-up to that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot of us, myself included, we've invested in Kenya in different places, and our investments have been, last we've been duped. We've done all the due diligence. So are you as an MCA, what is the legislation you're working in Kiambu to make sure that if I come there and invest my hard-earned money, I have done all the due diligences, I have the green card, I have the title deed, I made sure the survey is done, that I'm not going to lose my property at the end of the day, because that is our fear. Yeah. A lot of us, that has happened to us, and that's why we are shying away from investing in Kenya. So what are you doing to allay our fears?
Okay, first of all, when it comes to property and investment in property, you need to look at, I believe there are companies that have formed an association and they're self-policing themselves for accountability. When it comes to issues of credibility of the companies that are doing that. But let me tell you, in fact, before I came here today, I bumped into Amze, who was so pissed off, so angry that he had been duped and conned by some planners in Kiambu. And actually, it's just that it was a long time ago and he seems to have made peace with it. I was willing to help follow up on those specific issues. When it comes to planning, always make sure that you get receipted transactions. Never, ever, ever pay money which does not have a receipt. That helps us. If anything goes wrong, you can even go to your member of county assembly in whichever ward, present your issue, lobby through us. We will help you. We'll help follow up on issues like that, especially if it's in a county like Kiambu. The folks here have my number. If you ever need any help when it comes to following up issues like that, we'll be happy to help.
Now, Washeke, I have, I don't know, a suggestion for you, because I know you, like myself, you're a money person.
IULs?
Yes, no IULs. And I think as diasporans, we first of all need to start thinking differently in terms of how we want to invest in Kenya. And how we need to think differently, we need to look at those who've done this successfully. And one particular group that has done this very successfully from the diaspora is the Somalis. And I know quite a number of them, because
I'm joining that circle.
Yeah, I know quite a number of them, because we're all Muslims, and I've been looking at how they've been operating, like in a lot of these investments that they make, a lot of these big investments that you see in places like Isli and even the Central Business District, there's a lot of money that they put in there. So one of the mistakes that we make as diasporans is going for the same investments that an average investor is looking for, like a kafuroti. And this is one area where, like those...
Wait, why is it kafuroti and looking at me?
No, I was just shaking my head. My head just happened to face that
When he said kafuroti,
100 by 100.
Yeah.
You're going to go another,
Yeah. So I think, like if you're doing it out of patriotism, that's one thing, which means you're okay making a loss out of it. But if you're doing it, you want to make money. Yes. I think these investments that Kenyans are going for, like a 10 by 10, or diasporans should not be doing that. And the reason I say this is because we have investment vehicles here that are passive, that will give you a better return without you lifting a finger than what those frotis are giving and what those rentals are giving. So what we need to figure out is that there's a lot of foreign investors who are going to Kenya and they're making big money. So number one, we need to figure out what exactly is it they're investing and what they're doing, because what the investments they're making, those are the ones that return good money. Like when it comes to real estate, for example, the money is not necessarily in buying an apartment unit. The money is in developing the whole building.
Correct.
And that's what now the Somalis are doing. Rather than each one of us go with $1 million to Kenya, let's gather 100 of us and go with 100 million. When you go with 100 million as one consortium, number one, you're taken more seriously, and this is a big investment, and very likely this bigger amount has a higher chance of 2xing, like within maybe a 3-4 year period than your small $100,000 or $1 million. That's how the Somalis roll, and that's how they've been successful. Now I know there's a lot of like tribalism even here in the diaspora, and a lot of mistrust. I think people need to talk at the level of like, if let's say 2,000 people, I'm sure most of you have like more than 5,000 friends on your Facebook pages. You can at least pick
2,000
50, let me not even say 100, pick at least 50 that you trust and try to move together, because these investments, I'll tell you, these real estate investments, diasporans have been burned, and
they will continue being burned,
and they continue being burned. And my recommendation is, don't do it. Like it's no longer worth it.
What I was going to add on that and say, back to the benchmarking thing. If Washeke is still listening, I mentioned some industries that we are looking to partner with the city of Philadelphia. Especially when it comes to recycling landfills and producing building material. So and also green energy and things like that. So solar powers and what have you. So there will be spaces which open up in terms of investments in those industries, whether it's machinery, whether it's just bringing the intellectual capacity and things like that. So it doesn't always have to be, as you're saying here, broti. If you can come together as a group, as Ali is saying, or even a chama, and everybody brings good money, then you can do a lot of things. Also, in the government of Kiambu is looking to embrace PPPs, right? We've had people come and pitch programs like, look, we'll build a hospital, have it funded, and you can pay over time. Obviously, that's very high level. But still, these are opportunities which you can come. But Kiambu, for the first time, I know you can come and even pitch your project or whatever it is you want to the governor, and it will be listened to.
Washeke, final words to Honorable Kigara.
Kind ones, please. No chance.
Of course, that's why I called it. Just thank you very much for coming on the show. We've learned a lot. Myself, I've learned about the role of the MCA, because we always legislators. I can't even speak. So MCAs, senators, it's kind of very confusing, especially for us that don't live in Kenya. So thank you very much for taking your time to educate us and to listen to our concerns and trying to build trust and partnerships with the diaspora.
You're
and
welcome.
natuma salamu huko Ingo, so fikisha salamu
Ingo.
wege shosho na nina boy maikara kana hau
Where?
Ingo.
Where exactly?
It's a joke.
Oh,
I'm just joking. Just joking.
oh, we're talking to Salam. Man, I was so serious. I was ready to get-
you are ready to pokea. and
I-
you take
I
the-
was ready to
You are
take
taking the
notes.
aerogram with you as
And,
you take it to deliver.
You had me there,
Who you
Washeke.
moved to?
Well
Who you
done.
moved to?
that was a good one.
Washeke, that's a good one. That's a good
Washeke,
one.
that's a good one. Now, Joe,
Yeah.
from the brief interaction you've had with the few diasporans you've interacted with while you were here,
Yes.
what's one or two things that you've learned that maybe you did not know? Was this your first time in the US?
No. I've been in the US.
Or you've been to the US before?
Yeah.
But what is it, from the interactions that you've had this particular time that you learned that maybe you're not familiar with?
That I'm not familiar with. First of all, diasporans, even by going by the comments I've seen come through, are very, very interested in knowing what's going on back home. And that's a good thing, because we can only start changing our country if we're also getting feedback. Otherwise it becomes, the way you have a horse with these cups, you're only seeing your way. Feedback is everything. And I've gotten so much information on how people are keeping tabs on what county governments are doing, national governments are doing, what leaders are doing, and what we should be doing. So that's a good thing. I've never had this kind of feedback before. I'm impressed in how adept and people, and how keen people are in what's going on back home, and that's a good thing. What I can say, though, is that I think we also need to be aware that things can and will change. We need to have some hope and faith, right? Because is it the psychiatrist, Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, who said thinking sometimes is difficult. That's why people judge. Because if
easier to judge.
It's just easier to judge because it's the historical, it's not working, it's like this. But if you think and put context, like Washeke is saying, okay, what else can we do? You've said there's chances. What is the industry? How can we help as a county make legislation easier for investors, for developers, to make it easier for diasporans to come and check these companies you're investing with that are banning people? Then we can step into that. So if you're coming to do something in Kiambu, please, by all means, let me know. If it's a company we need checked and look, see the background, if it's valid, if it's done any faulty business, we'll be happy to help in that level.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you support the idea of diasporans, now that you know that we have some very unique issues, do you support the idea of diasporans getting their own representation? Like our own member of parliament, our own senators?
Okay, I'll say this at the very least. We need, we have a PS for diaspora,
Yes.
right? All right, okay. That wasn't there before.
That he does not represent us.
Oh, why?
Because
he's not here.
He wasn't chosen by us.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that needs to change.
He or she does not represent
Okay,
us.
that should have been a diasporan here, at the very least, before we get like a member of diaspora representatives on a political wing.
Yeah, on a political level.
Yeah.
Because remember,
I think that would need some change in the Act of Parliament. But yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. Yeah.
Okay.
But at the very least, you need someone chosen from the
Maybe
diaspora.
we need one from every county.
My vote is for Ali.
But
I think
but to
maybe
my
we need
question,
one from
until
every
then,
county.
adding into the wage bill again, going back to this issue.
Yeah, but then our issues will be addressed because we are the ones who are sending money anyway.
Yeah, we're the ones who are sending the wages.
Perfect. It's
Thank
a big,
you.
It's a
Yeah.
big constituent. I
Yeah.
believe you need to be supported.
Now, the other thing,
Mhm.
if you had a perfect presidential candidate for 2027, who would it be?
Oh, Joe Kigara.
No. Okay, let's take Joe Kigara out. Let's
You
take
mean
Joe Kigara out.
the front players?
No,
It could be someone
Be a
else.
free thinker. It could be anyone. It could be anyone, but it has to be, like a Kenyan, of course, someone who's eligible to run for presidency in Kenya. You cannot say Barack Obama. Yeah.
I had a very interesting conversation the other day with Professor PLO Lumumba,
Okay.
and I asked him that very question.
Yeah.
You go on radio shows, you go on all these conventions and universities and speak policy and governance. Why don't you give it a try? And he laughed. and we exchange numbers. Now we are talking because I want to prod him, not so much that he's going to vie or not, but we need people like him who are articulate and brave and are able to, stand against the wave, whatever happens.
So PLO Lumumba would be your...
That's my guy, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't he supposed to be coming inside for something?
Yeah, he's supposed to be
I don't
coming
know,
for
we wait
South
from
Carolina.
Juku. We
Yeah.
wait from Juku.
No. It's South Carolina. Remember,
Yeah.
Kia told us that...
Yes.
Yeah.
Ask
so-
him that question if you get hold of him, because I chokoza him
Yeah.
on that.
Now, I'm not going to let you guys go. Who would be your perfect candidate?
What, to run for office now?
Yes.
Between Sifuna and Otieno Amolo.
Sifuna and Otieno Amolo.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You are the
Yours.
last party
Huh?
in.
Yours.
No, it's you who goes. It's my question, Bana. You can't trade my question like that. It's you.
Actually, when you posed that, I thought of Sifuna.
Mm-hmm.
At one
Wow,
point.
Sifuna.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought.
Yeah.
At one point in time, I was looking at Mr. Dimples. And I'm like, no, at one point, I'm
Are you
like,
saying
You mean Omidimpos, the Tanzanian artist
No.
in Kenya?
the former Chenjerian, the career,
He went there.
Sakaja.
You went there.
And I'm like, but now I'm Angusha.
He showed too many colors at one inning. At one point, you're right. There was there was a point.
Like they always do.
There was a point. There are some
They always do.
There was
some
never a
colors.
point.
No, some
They
colors
always-
came out. That
Like they always do. Right now, to be quite honest,
Yeah, and what were comment Pia? Like this is a question to everyone. If you had a perfect, you're given, this is your opportunity. Give us the perfect candidate that you want for 2027.
you know whose bandwagon I would jump on,
Yeah.
unless he fumbles or whatever. Jimmy Wanjigi.
Jimmy Wanjigi.
Yeah.
Okay. And why Jimmy Wanjigi?
He's
I
from
think
Mount Kenya.
Because of the explosive.
He's from Mount Kenya.
No. That is nonsense. And
Because
you better feel ashamed for saying that.
Because
No,
of the
I think-
explosive exposés is revealed.
No, yeah. And you think also like him when it comes to financial and fiscal responsibility that he has shown.
Yeah.
Like even educating the Kenyans, like in terms of the budgetary process, whatnot, this, that, the other,
Yeah.
budget, how things are supposed to be when money comes in, what's supposed to do, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, and yet there's yet to be somebody from government to come and say, but the boss, you're wrong, or to counter him. Nobody has come up and said anything and fought him, whether you are in opposition or whether you are in whatever.
That guy's been collating all those Gava
Again.
contracts for a while. I think he
Hey.
wouldn't know.
Nobody has come
He's
and said,
probably the chap
but he's
who
saying that,
they
that's
wrote
fine.
those policies
That's fine.
as they were eating.
Miguna metusi baba sana kwende.
Yeah.
Who is yours?
No, me I wanted.
Oh, by the way, hold on.
Yeah.
No, you have to.
We have
No, you have to answer.
No.
no,
question.
no,
The
boss.
question.
No.
No.
You have to
Question.
answer it.
Before
you
he
have to
answers,
answer.
he answers,
Yes.
I would be remiss
Mhm.
if I don't give this gentleman a shout out.
Yes.
This guy has flown in from Canada. Ameingia kutoka kwa Trudeau
Straight to the one mic show.
straight here.
Yani ametumia zile healthcare
Sio the
za free. Ameingia nazo zote.
lakini
Amevuka boda.
analipwa in taxes lakini yako sawa. I would be remiss if he doesn't say anything. Hebu kuja chukua either actually kuja come and no just come stand over here.
Yeah.
Wacha na utoe kofia na useme majina na nini. Hii ni church.
Yeah.
Ulisomea wapi?
Na ulisomea wapi boss?
Roy Karau. I was with this gentleman in Nairobi school.
Oh,
Apacherian. We knew there was a guy who was from
Apache
a guy-
Damu.
we knew-
Apache Damu Pevu.
we knew the guy
So
from
Joe-
Baringo over here.
Joe called me. This week? Yes. He said, Roy, I'm in town. Can you show up?
And you just showed up because he's in
I
town.
just showed up.
Wow.
As a
Okay.
true Canadian.
Where? Okay. It seems Trudeau is doing a nice job.
No.
for
It
you
was
that you
just-
can just show up on short notice.
It's a short weekend.
Yeah.
Nijipanga tu kigafla. Then I happened to be here. But you guys, I give you guys kudos. You're doing an awesome job.
Oh, thank you
This
so
is-
much.
Thank
I
you.
follow you guys. I just don't comment.
Maybe you can explain to us behind that why you don't comment, because you're the guys we need to bring out.
No, because when I'm doing this, I'm running around with the kids.
Understood.
Activities.
Understood.
I'm in the car.
Understood.
Literally on my phone.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
I don't watch the entire full show because I'm this here.
But multitasking. Yeah.
Look, it's in and out.
Okay.
But
so that's Roy. He's straight from Canada. He landed today. Amengangana na uko idea hapo na he came in, but
he came from Durus.
From Durus. So and also
but I've known on Mike. We've known each other since
high school. So we graduated at that time.
I used to live in Charlotte. Used to visit North Carolina way back.
Oh, okay.
Then he moved to Canada. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now Roy, you're also not gonna escape this drug.
Who are your ideal? Who are your ideal two?
No,
who are your ideal?
This was an ideal. This was an ideal trap.
Lakini ni Mkenya pia.
This was an ideal trap. So, who would be your perfect candidate for president 2027?
This young cat from ODM called
Sifuna. Oh, so now there's 3 Sifunas. There's Omosh, Uno Mike, and you.
I find his intellect is down to earth. He's willing to debate on any issue.
Yes.
And I like his strength.
And he will deconstruct you in
like
a debate.
nonsense.
And admit.
Yeah.
Mna debate.
Yeah.
It's not about right and wrong. It's a debate.
He will duel.
He will own it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I like that.
And I think there's even someone in the comments here. I think that's Stephen JJ saying Sifuna. So wow. I mean, this is very interesting.
Yeah. I would literally vote for that guy in a heartbeat.
Washeke ndio hiyo uso. Umeona uso? Umeona ndio wacha kuteta. Umeona uso?
Oh, she liked the voice and then she didn't see the
No,
nini.
she said
uso. Buretini uso 1 to 10.
Wasn't like a blast.
Washeke, this one he can even send.
Akona miwani.
No, akona salt and pepper.
But he can also send a shout out to Ingo, so she can send her shout out.
But anyway, guys, nice meeting you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Later, man.
Pleasure.
And with the quickness.
He's out. Is this the wahenga part?
This might be it.
I like that cue. Na wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga.
So that means I'm not answering that question.
Oh no. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Before we do that, Ali has to answer that question.
Okay, before I answer the question, let me read a few comments here.
You tricked me on that nonsense. Because I have to do it again.
And I knew as a Pacherian you would get trapped. You'd take that trap and go with it.
Oh my God.
But that's okay. Let me see.
It's okay. I have to deal with this.
Let me see. Stephen JJ saying, this Chama thing, you end up being targeted. Afro-Jamaican was asking, can a non-Kenya join your circle? I don't know. I can't remember what circle this is. But Afro-Jamaican. And Afro-Jamaican also, you also have to answer that question as a non-Kenyan. What Kenyan would you like to see as a president? You know, like
we know who Pablo is going to. We already know Pablo.
Yeah, we already know Pablo. I mean, you already gave a different answer, but we know his first choice.
Yeah, we know his first choice.
Yeah, but that's okay. So Stephen JJ says Sifuna. Pablo actually says Governor Gladys Wanga would make a good president. Interesting choice.
Very
By the way,
very interesting choice. I mean,
she's doing good things.
Very interesting choice.
Yes.
Let me tell you, I'm a guy of Homa Bay County. Did not support her at all. But what we have seen and what she has done, and I've been on the ground.
Omosh, please. Get it right. No, get it right.
Yeah.
Say you're from the Bay County. Come on.
Bay County.
Listen, surely.
The Bay Area.
Mr. Who cannot count, who counts in English.
Okay, fine.
Nonsense.
I'm from the Bay Area. So, again, she's doing things that have not been done in, I was going to say Luo Nyanza.
Okay.
By any of the former governors.
Yeah.
To the point where the president has come to Homa Bay County in the last ESG 4 times.
Okay.
Na kaenda mpaka Mfangano.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the last president who went there was Moi.
Wow.
So
that's something
to show.
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
All you guys have chosen politicians for president. I'm the politician and I've not chosen a politician.
I haven't chosen. You said all you guys.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Ali, we know who you're gonna say.
I think, yeah.
Sultan.
You do?
Sultan. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, that
Let's hear. Tell us.
But actually, now thinking of it, it wasn't even on my mind.
Yeah.
But a choice to consider. But it wasn't on my mind.
Okay, now tell us who was on your mind.
On my mind was reading these comments. Stephen JJ says Jimmy nimse kama Trump. He's not going to be a good president. And then Pablo says Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi is too much talk. He should try to be an MCA first. And then Drew Kimani says CT from Spice FM would be my choice for president. Okay,
He's too practical.
So that's an interesting
president.
choice. And then let me see, Washeke anasema Mfrimuturi mbona hivyo. Achuna Pacho says Sifuna is not tribal. I think he can make a wow. That's a lot of Sifunas that are coming in.
Sifuna is nice.
Yeah. So that's
There's something
that's
about
very
Sifuna.
interesting. That's very interesting.
I'll fall off if you say Sifuna now, you as your choice. If you say
I don't think Sifuna was on his lips.
No.
Okay. You want me to say Sifuna?
It's funny how Mbadi was selected to take over by Mama, but sorry, no, carry on, finish.
And then Afro-Jamaican says Susan Kihika. Okay. All right. Afro-Jamaican,
I would rather do a Mushomba. Huyu Susan Kihika huko amekorofisha watu Nakuru. Amefanya madhogodhanio Nakuru huyo.
Yeah.
Yes, but carry on.
Okay. And then
he hasn't been to Nakuru on the ground with her. So
ajui mambo.
And then Achuna Pacho says she just completed a very successful
Gladys Wanga
investment conference.
Yes.
Gladys Wanga.
Yes.
Okay. And then Stephen JJ said, I've said Sifuna kutoka Kitambo. Okay, so that's good, Stephen JJ. So Wahenga? Okay, I see you're paying attention this time. Now, here's an interesting thing. To me, I think the most important quality that I want in the next leader is someone who, first of all, has the ability to unify the country, because we are a very divided country. And I think, it's getting worse over time. It's getting worse in the sense that people are being played around like chess pieces and being moved around. So ideally, I would have liked someone from outside. I would have liked someone from the top 5 ethnicities in Kenya, because I think those top 5 ethnic groups are the ones that have notoriously made this chess game fester, between who is it gonna be from this one or this one, and everyone will feel like, if we give this one, then this other one has to rudisha mkono, and I think that's just problematic. One leader that I have admired for a long time, and he's also been in politics for quite some time. He's faced failure, he's lost, and he's won again. Let me first see if people can make a guess of who it is. He's not the one that you're thinking. I know there's one that Pablo is already thinking. I know there's one that someone else already thinking. It's not that person, but to me, a hint I can give you, he doesn't belong to one of those major political ethnic groups. And he's someone that
groups or tribes. Okay, ethnic tribes. Okay, ethnic groups.
You can call them groups or tribe or whatever you want to call them. And he's someone that he's a common face. You would see him on different Kenyan media stations, debating different issues. Another hint, he's someone that I mentioned at some point today in the conversation. I think maybe it was before, maybe not during the show. Maybe it might have been before the show. So and let me see. So Washeke is saying Governor of Mombasa. Pablo is saying Ali Buswali.
It's not the
Stephen
governor of
JJ is saying Ali, you have the fire. Hata
it's not the governor of Mombasa. I can
Stephen
tell
JJ
you.
is telling me hata we unaweza. I don't know. But yeah.
And you're not talking about Kivutha?
No, I did mention Kivutha is one of the politicians I talked about.
mention.
I mean, Kivutha is on the list.
Yeah.
He's on the list, but he's not the one I'm thinking about. Kivutha,
But
I
Kivutha
mentioned
is from
Kivutha.
one of the tribes.
He's one from one of the main tribes.
He's from one of those groupings, and they'll definitely be. But I like the fact that his identity is not that grouping. So I think I would give Kivutha a pass.
Yeah.
Kivutha is one person I would give a pass.
Okay,
Let me see how people are good. Drukimani Peter Kenneth. Oh my goodness. Washeke is saying governance expert from Northeastern. I don't know who that governance expert is. And then Washeke says, I can't remember his name. I don't know whether he's talking about, hata pia mimi jina yake inanipotea. He used to be in the Constitution for Kenya Review Commission. He used to be a member of parliament, but alitoka and he was in the Uhuru administration. Wow, my name,
someone from
Abdul, is it called Abdul Kadir? Yeah, so that's not the one.
Oh, okay.
That's not the one. But this one, Washeke is the one who's gotten closest. This one is also from Northeastern, and now I think you know who I'm talking about. Because I might have kind of passively no.
The guy who's now heading one of these commissions. What's his name? I forget his name.
You're not talking about the former majority guy?
No.
Former majority guy. Who's the former majority?
This guy
majority is Duale. Of course,
not Duale.
Not
Duale. Oh, he's majority now.
No, Duale is a minister now.
Yeah, but wasn't he former majority?
No,
yeah, but he's not talking about that.
What is this guy saying? He's Nigerian.
I was looking to see if you're paying attention.
It's not that guy.
I was looking to see if you're paying attention.
It's not that guy.
Yeah, but drum roll, the guy, his name is Farah Maalim. I think you'd make a very good president.
Very interesting character.
Farah
Yeah,
Maalim. Because remember when we had a conversation earlier, I told you someone with this was
you didn't mention the name.
Kenya.
You didn't mention the name.
No, I did mention.
No, you didn't.
I did.
We'll go back.
Okay.
We'll do VAR.
No,
you never mentioned the name. You just said there was somebody who was kicked out because of.
But why?
This.
Why?
Really?
It goes in Garissa, right? Or
Yes, he's a Garissa. Yeah, he's on point.
No, you never mentioned a name.
Yeah.
But I remember very well you mentioned a guy who was kicked out
member of parliament
because of this.
Yeah.
And that was it. You never mentioned a name.
Yeah. So also Duale is also from Garissa, and they've been on opposite ends for the long time. Him and Duale, are opposite in terms of the way they think.
Farah Maalim is a good guy.
So to me, that's one person.
And I think he's been on Spice. That's Spice.
That I think he would make a great president. And I think also he's not from any of the major like ethnic groups in Kenya, and I think that's probably like what we need first of all to de-ethnicize Kenyan politics. I think that's something that's 100%. Very important. And I also think, and I'm going to say this, and I'm biased on this, I think Kenya as the only let me not say East. When I say East Africa, I mean the original East Africa. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. The only East African nation that has never had a Muslim president. And I'll be biased. And I will say it's about time.
Burundi had a Muslim president.
No, I say the original East Africa. Pay attention, Omosh. Yeah. I know you did GHC in 1955.
It doesn't matter. It's still East Africa.
Yeah. I know you did GHC.
It's still East Africa. It's still East Africa.
So for me personally, and one reason I say that I don't like bringing religion into this is that
Ali, you bring religion all the time. Stop pretend. You bring religion all the time.
I will say it for you.
You bring it in all the time.
I will say it for him.
It's okay.
When you have the first lady taking a special trip, going to invite
Benny Hinn,
who came by the way on a government sponsored trip.
Yeah,
we don't know about if that happened or whatever, because apparently one of the pastors he showed up, and apparently someone else was clearing the bill. But if someone was able to do that, we can also have a Muslim president.
So you see, I see. One of the issues that sometimes Kenya doesn't like looking, and in all defense, people were up in arms against, the first lady bringing in Benny Hinn to the country on a government budget. So people were up in arms. I can only imagine if Kenya had a Muslim president and then like it's a Muslim scholar being brought on government money. I can only try to imagine how that.
What's your chap called? Yasir what?
Yasir Kadhi, that's my dog, brother.
No, but Yasir Kadhi is actually you can't compare Yasir Kadhi to Benihin. Him he's a logical person. I'm trying to think of just an extreme person, like one of those people who's on a list here and there, and then you bring him to Kenya, like as a Muslim scholar. But yeah, and this is where like I will dare my the Muslim politicians who are in parliament or who are in politics. I'll dare them. And here's one example I'm gonna give that many of you remember. Remember a guy called Mwalimu Dida?
Yes.
Yes.
So Mwalimu Dida, one interesting thing that people never noted about his presidential campaign, by the way, he was someone who came out of nowhere, out of the blue, and he had more votes than Martha Karua.
Yes.
Martha Karua, was also a presidential candidate in 2013.
Yeah, he beat her.
So very interesting that what a lot of people don't know about Mwalimu Dida. By the way, he was a teacher in Changes, just so you know. Yeah, but that's besides the point. But another thing that people did not know about his campaign,
that's why he lost.
A lot of the things that he was talking about that people were excited about, like for example,
the third,
the plate. Those are Islamic concepts. A lot of those things he was talking about them, but he wasn't saying this is Islamic, and he was talking about Jesus also from an Islamic, but he wasn't telling anyone. So he was very, like smart in how he did it, because the moment he said, I'm saying this because this is what Islam says, then the way people go, everybody will be like, no, you're only extreme this. Yeah. So to me, I challenge Farama Alim, and I challenge, like a lot of other Muslim politicians, because there's one of the reasons why, for example, you will not see a politician being given a platform in a mosque. Like they even know when they come in, they will come in like anyone else. They will go and sit.
I have a counter to that.
So they will never be given a platform.
They were not given a platform. They came, but they were not given a platform.
So they will come. You're talking about the time when Ruto was.
They came, but they were not given a platform.
But that wasn't a mosque.
No. When they went and they bowed down and they prayed.
That was not a mosque.
Wasn't a mosque. It wasn't a mosque.
My friend, that was a mosque.
Okay,
that was KICC.
So why don't they why don't politicians given a place to talk in a mosque?
Because first of all, a mosque is a place where there's it's a 7-day affair. There's 5 daily prayers that are hosted there from morning to evening. So there's really and it's very rigid, like there's very rigid things that happen in the mosque, and there's sometimes meetings that are held in there, but it's all in relation to worship and in relation to maybe what's happening in the society and in the community. There's no room for someone, or even there's no space. Let's say like the time when there's the biggest crowds in the mosques, which is during Friday prayers. There is really no time for politicians to go there, and say hi to people, and even the way a mosque is set up, there's no special seating. In fact, there's no seating. There's only some seats for maybe people who have disabilities who cannot sit on the ground.
People have bad knees.
Yeah, and the way it's set up, it's fast come, fast serve. Mimi nikifika first, I'm the one who's gonna go in the first row.
Right.
So if the khutbah is starting at 12:30 p.m., people are already coming in from 11:30. So by the time you're coming in at 12:30, there's already and hizo safu zisha form tayari. So there's no space ati you're a special person, you're a president, we're gonna give you
mbele. Wow. No, ujishike huko nyuma.
None. So even Muslim politicians, you'll see Mohammed Ali in Mombasa going to churches, but people ask a very good question. Mbono wendi msikitini? Because he knows he's not gonna be given a platform. So you can go talk to people after the prayers, like ile tu interaction that people have after prayers, but platforms for politicians that I'm campaigning, unless there's something very specific that's affecting the community. Like I remember there was a time I saw Balala talking in Jamia when there was an issue about young Muslims being arrested indiscriminately, and he had to answer some questions, unless there's an issue very directly connected, but not issues of nitawajengea barabara ama nitawapelekea madawa hospitali. So it's something that that we actually are very happy, and I think even the Muslim politicians, they would never even dare.
So you see, the Muslim community are happy with the way things are. Christian community are also happy that this one time they get this politician to come, address us, tell us.
But now you see, a lot of Christians are complaining about politicians going to churches. And this is not me saying, it's people here in the comments. A lot of Christians are complaining about that. Or maybe, am I wrong on this?
No, well, there's a section. You're talking about individuals also, politicians also individuals. So you'll always get that one politician in front of the pulpit who takes things a bit too far. And there are churches like Catholic churches,
it's not
Protestants, they are very, very strict. Even where you stand. You don't stand where at the pulpit.
The priest, yes.
You stand in front there and you're given 2 minutes. Up or down, I've learned that lesson the hard way. Trust you me. And I've had a rapport with many churches. I'm a Protestant. I go to a PCEA. But every Sunday I go to every other church, from independent churches to Catholics to whichever, just so that I can worship with people and give them a message. Otherwise, what we were talking about earlier, it becomes very difficult to have a forum unless I'm in radio show like this and so on and so forth. But coming back to your choice, you did pick a politician.
Of course, I did pick a politician, and you see, for me, I like being realistic.
Yes.
I'm not one of these idealistic people. The one thing, I love PLO. But PLO, and I love what he's doing right now, and I'd love him to stay there, because now his platform has grown beyond Kenya. He's known across the continent, by a lot of people. I'd love him to stay there. I think PLO, he has tried his hand in politics, and he wasn't able to navigate the murky waters of politics. I think he tried becoming a member of parliament in I think it was Kamkunji constituency. And then I think during the Kibaki regime, he was appointed as the head of the anti-corruption, of ethics and anti-corruption.
Yes, I remember,
At that particular time. It did not end quite well. So I think, he's in a good space where he is now, and I think he can have bigger impact where he is than getting into politics. The reason why I would choose, a politician is because, unfortunately, politics is a contact sport. When you're looking at a rough sport like rugby, it's nice, for someone who's very astute in kati at missing balls. But now when you go on a rugby field and you get hit once, it could be a legal or an illegal hit. It will rattle you. And you may not be able to play. You need someone who can take those hits. You need someone who can withstand criticism. You need someone who can work with people he dislikes. With Farah Maalim, he's been able to work with different camps. You need that kind of balance. You don't need any person who's ideal. I don't think sometimes is fit for such a position. And that's the reason why I went back to and you need someone who's failed. One of the problems that we have with the current president is that he's never failed. And
sailing.
And when you've never failed, you start giving suggestions and solutions. Remember what I said earlier? You provide solutions that go looking for problems. Because you've never failed, you've never seen the bottom of the pit, and that's why he, despite what people are complaining about, he honestly feels that there will be no consequence in 2027. I think that's what's and he could be right. And he could be right. Maybe there will be no consequences, but I think he strongly believes in his mind that there will be no consequences, regardless of what he does. And for Farah Maalim, if maybe you cannot run for president, maybe unaweza kuwa running mate wa baba.
Running mate.
Wahenga.
Wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Fire that is Omoshika there.
What up? Thank you. Watazamaji, my fans, my peeps, all those peoples out there. Na watu wangu wa Kiambu. How do I say, how are you?
Muriega.
Muriega.
You shouldn't have answered him.
No. We need his vote. You know,
what do you mean? So, poleni to my people uko Kiambu. Joe, thank you so much. This is you have unpacked for us things that we didn't know, and now what we know, we actually now are going to look at MCAs very differently.
Thank you.
Because tulikuwa tumeangalia macho zingine mbaya sana. Mbaya sana. In fact, I thought all they did was close down clubs, beat people, and
hire goons.
Hire goons, and then kick out governors.
And force impeachments.
And also distribute money, during political rallies.
Yes.
Because some of them do that.
Yes.
But kumbe, there is another side to this thing called an MCA. And we didn't know they didn't have a budget. Me, I didn't know, unless you guys knew. I didn't know they did not have.
Yeah.
I thought they were the ones who had the keys to the money that the governor was to use. That's what I thought.
Me, that's the image. That's what had been painted for me. But
kumbe hapa ni kitu ingine. Hey,
character development.
I can see. In fact, I don't even know why I would run for an MCA. That after what I know now, because it's always a fight. And then you have these chaps who are coming, Ebu pay school fees for my kids. Because that's what they do with anybody who's in office.
And they're the closest to the ground.
Kazi ya MCA, let me tell you, ni kama mwalimu, ni kazi ya kujitolea. If the financial incentive is not there, that one I can tell you. So,
Wow. Thank you for coming through. To our fans, as usual, thanks for being here with us. I know we've gone over kidogo. We've kept our guest over here talking. We'll wrap this thing up. See you guys next week. I'll see you. Last word, Joe.
Do you know, it occurred to me that we didn't talk about the process of impeaching governors and everything. Next time.
Now, when you go to Kenya, we are gonna organize a part 2.
Yes.
Of this, and this is gonna be done. This is gonna be done via Zoom.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, it's gonna be done via.
Because I can't even afford to come back.
No benchmarking. No benchmarking.
You can afford to come back. Will you go back in
unless Kiambu County Assembly is willing to facilitate?
Pesa imeisha.
Yeah.
The small funds that were there zimekwisha. But we can do that. But I'll tell you that Kiambu, we are not interested in those fights of impeaching governors at this time. We want to give the governor a chance to talk. So
Governor Wamatangi.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Governor Wamatangi. Yeah.
So your final word.
My final one.
Your final parting shot.
Yes.
My parting shot. Actually, I'd said it again, but let me repeat. Let's be critical. Let's be analytical of policy and governance without necessarily judging. I think it's important to critique as much as possible. I am a fan of accountability, especially when it comes to public funds. I'll continue fighting for that. But tukifanya kitu kidogo mzuri, then let's recognize, and then that can be the building blocks of a better Kenya, I believe.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Joe Kigara, for coming through to the One Mic Show today.
Pleasure.
This was a very interesting, entertaining, and very educative and informative session, as you can tell from the people who are tuned in. And I think this is the deepest session that has ever been had about MCAs, because MCAs are these figures.
The only session.
Are these figures in Kenya who have they used to be called councillors in the old system, and like there was always an association of violence, and they would show them when they were throwing chairs at each other or fighting, and then of course now impeaching governors. But I think today we were able to open up the hood and see this other side that most people just maybe fairly don't know about. And it's interesting that most people, not only on the ground, and even people here, were saying that I thought an MCA ni ndo mtu anafaa kuleta development. And we're not seeing development on the ground. So I think that's a very important, gap that the Kenyan civic education has, because there's a lot of focus on the member of parliament. There's this, larger than life persona that MPs, senators, governors have been given, and the people who are closest to the people have not been demystified. People don't know what their role is. True. So I think that's a gap on the civic education and on governance education at a very high level. Because even, especially in Nairobi, people in Nairobi like talking bad about mashinani, but people in Nairobi are sometimes the ones who are very uninformed. Like mtu unaenda kumuuliza, they don't even know who their MCA is.
It's true.
And guess what? Not only do they not know, but they don't even care.
That's true.
And that's a very common thing.
Yes, that's true.
They don't even care. So that's one other thing that I think people uko mashinani, in other parts, people are a bit more familiar with what's happening. It's interesting. Uko kwetu kule ndani in Malindi Cheshale, where I have some land. One of the guys who was my caretakers became an MCA. So now I'm gonna be talking to him very differently. Yes. He became an MCA. He was running and mi nikamuuliza, hey boss, wewe unajiingiza hii kitu, but he clearly knew, what he was doing.
I hope you gave him like a little something for campaign.
Hey,
but boss, remember, MCAs don't have a fund, so asikutishe.
No. But akona power up or down.
Yes.
No, I've been giving him a lot of little things. Achana na campaign, but he's a very good person. He's a very good person, and especially in some of those spaces, if you own land, you really need to have buy-in with the local community.
Yeah,
correct.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, this
100%.
thing of you're gonna buy land online, and then ati utakaa tu kando, and then you just show up one day na uanze kuvuruga watu.
That's a good point, because MCAs in different areas also play a different role. You'll find someone like that has the community's interest in terms of who, if you have newcomers coming to buy land, for instance, they want to know who it is.
Yeah.
In my area, it's peri-urban. So we want anybody and everybody to come. So we're talking policy.
Yeah.
Right? So that other people can come.
Yeah.
So there's those nuances when it comes to
so it's different. And this guy, also learned so much from him. There was a time when I was there, because when people show up, that's when this michangos, vitabu za michangos napita. Ati kuna mchango ya skuli. So I tried to understand what's going on with that school. So it was so the school was built, but then the Teacher Service Commission sent only 4 teachers, a primary school, and it's a school that has more than 800 students. So now they have to changa to go find teachers, and those are some of the challenges that public schools are experiencing.
Absolutely.
So this has been a very good eye-opener on the role of members of county assembly, and maybe this will make us look at them differently. Now, the other thing also is I want to remind all the people who are tuned in that Boston Marathon is coming up. Go to runwithkenyans.com. We are going to be there in Boston. So I don't know that Kiambu County Assembly will send you to benchmark to see if you can have a marathon in Kiambu.
We'll run virtually.
Or you'll run virtually.
Yes.
Yeah. And the interesting thing we found out, when we had some experts on marathon, is that Kenya, despite being the leaders in marathons in the world, we do not have any competitive marathons in Kenya. The ones we have are charity runs, which is very sad.
Freedom from hunger, nini?
Yes, which is very sad. That's not even a run, that's a walk. Yeah. But
charity.
We have standard
all those are charity.
Charities.
All those are charity.
But it's a charity. It's not something. No, it's not on the circuit that you'd have people coming from huko inje wanakuja wanakimbia.
That's like Brazil not having a competitive soccer league. Just think about it. Yeah, wow. It's like Brazil not having a competitive soccer.
That's an idea for MCA over here to go and pitch.
Yeah, so sports is another
have a run in Kiambu.
Yeah.
Bana akona shida zake are bigger than those ones that you're thinking about.
Digivia.
Yeah.
You heard him talk about over here. CG is trying to figure out where to get his trash to move, and if the Italians need to come in and bring the mafia.
Okay. Aya, sawa sawa. And with that said,
With a pickup truck.
with that said, na kwa hao machache, yeyote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile ile 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu. Na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule yule wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nimo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed. DJ Machachari Budaboska there. Take us out, bro.
Yo, hello. Yo, arrest. Hold on. Sindo, hivyo tu. Shagla nisha usio. Twende. Toto ni mfresh na